But since these are old farts, we are old farts to be on this one. So therefore I can be a little bit different, I think.
Yeah. Cool. Things look good. Hey, CalStaff, first on.
To log into chat, I forgot that.
Wow, that's loud. Oh, that happened. I just went blasted. But here comes Dan's first.
Hello.
Hey, Dan. You beat
Welcome.
You beat the really old guys. We're good. I know they're both coming. I just got confirmations.
They say that the young man's strength is in his sword arm, but in old men, it's in our gray hairs.
Mm-hmm. That's cool. That's awesome. Yep.
Well, I appreciate you coming back. You know, it hasn't been that long, but this is going to be a good discussion tonight.
Totally.
With a couple legends here. Wait, you got 3 legends.
Wow.
Yep.
That'll be
Look
fun.
I'm so excited. I'm waiting for my Game Master guy.
Oh, you're waiting for Steven to come on? Yeah, too. I mean, it's like, yeah. I got to, wait do you see the surprise I have for everyone tonight for Trollord? Got some good surprises. And I forget what button to push. There we go. Let's do this one. Yeah.
You always put the wrong button. That's the one you should remember to push.
Button.
Yep.
Always hit the wrong stinking button. Yeah.
I'm also I can't swing it because I just had like a massive auto repair thing, so I'll wait for retail. But the Exalted Funerals campaign setting for their old school essentials.
Yeah, they would something. I saw it on Questing Beast had an awesome video where he presented it, but now I forgot. Dolmen Wood, I think it was.
Yes, yeah.
Cool.
Yep. I'm not going to tell you what that means in Swedish though.
So Anna
because
was,
it's fun of it.
Anna was in Sweden last time, Dan. She wasn't on, so
okay.
Both of you together there.
Yep.
Anna Meyer, the great map maker, and Dan Masucci, the Inkdmage.
Awesome. Nice meeting you.
Nice meeting you.
Dolem Wood, the audience just said.
Yep.
Dolem Wood. Cool.
Was it Dolem Wood? Okay, then that's good.
Whatever it is. Participants 3. All right, waiting on Roger Moore and Stephen Chenault.
Man, those glamour shots you're showing are incredible.
Yeah, that's Infinite Dimension Games, one of my 2 3D sponsors. That's from a Kickstarter. That's like a year and a half old now, but like the arena, when you see the combat arena, we have one, and I think it's that one, the fighting pits there. Ours is nicer. Yeah, I mean, but it's awesome. They make some they make grandiose things, you know, big grandiose.
That bridge is wild.
Oh yeah, and it's expandable, and they have all new accessories to it too.
And they have like the ruin version as well, I think.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Super cool.
Yeah, they're great people too. They're from out of Toronto. So
nice.
yeah, look at that. Here they come. Here they come.
Man, I can't believe the summer's almost over.
I know, it's crazy, isn't it?
I know.
I'm like kind of happy my son will be going back to school soon, but I kind of feel bad for him.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
I'm like, oh well, you know.
But he's younger than you, so meaning he had spent an eternity being home, and for us it was just a blink and then it was gone.
Yeah, true.
Yep.
Roger can hear you. Yep, no pick though.
Hello.
No
I don't know what happened to my video. I'm working on that.
Okay, no problem.
Yep.
And hey, Steven, no vid for you yet either.
Looks like my video's
Mhm.
not helping.
Okay.
Boing.
So do we have a troll lord and a pirate? We'll see. Yep.
Yes, pretty much.
Awesome. How are you doing? Are you healing up?
This is about as healed as it's going to get. Right. Well, let me hold on a second. Let me go.
Take your time, guys.
Yeah, take your time. Yep.
I'm assuming Steven's on his laptop, so.
No, I'm still at the office. I did not go up tonight.
Oh!
But for some reason, my video's not showing up.
Might have to select to turn it on and off, or the cameras get iffy at times.
Zoom lower left-hand corner. Just make sure there's no slash mark through that video where it says stop video in the lower left-hand corner.
It says stop video. I have selected my camera. I wonder if this kills Skype. Maybe that'll.
Yeah, that's it. That's what it is. That's exactly what it is, because it can't resource the camera to both video outputs at the same time.
Okay, I bet I'm gonna have to jump out and jump back in.
Sounds good.
And you realize you should not be on Skype and on Zoom at the same time. Yeah.
Yeah, because the world will blow up
Yep.
if you're on both. Wow, that's loud. Everything's loud. I wonder what happened to my settings.
You did something yesterday because it was low yesterday, and then you
Yeah, but
bumped it
remember
up.
that's on the machine downstairs, Anna.
Ah, got you.
Yeah,
You're
that's
upstairs
on the
now, yeah.
gaming machine downstairs.
Yeah, so you should.
I'm glad I
Yeah.
accidentally hit the right button and it worked. That was embarrassing, wasn't it?
Oh, it took a while, but then,
Only
then
streaming
when
for
it worked,
freaking
it was
5
perfect.
years. Yeah.
Yeah, but it was
Jeez.
perfect after you got it working. It sounded great.
Man, Infinite Dimensions, look at all that stuff. It's
Yeah,
just
that's
loaded.
Gamescape. That's Gamescape
Oh, that's
3D.
it.
That's
So,
different.
okay.
Yeah, this is Gamescape. This is Jeremy at Gamescape 3D. He's a one-man show. That's one company.
And he just
What?
did the the Underdark.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. Absolutely.
Brilliant.
We've had his stuff on our table for 3 weeks.
That's right. I remember you showing me last time I was on the Lighthouse, which is incredible.
Yeah, that was his too. Yeah, he's great. And the great thing about him, he'll do like whatever we ask him. Like he came up with the idea of the floating stalagmites.
Yeah.
And that was exciting. But we talked about that. I said, well, the thing you got to do is you got to make it so they're cool, but they're going to be playable, right? So he had to engineer how to do that. So yeah, it's pretty cool. We have like a meeting like every couple months, just about what's going on and what he's gonna. He'll be on September 12th. We're gonna do a creative jam where I have all the crafters all on the screen, just and all in corners crafting, and we're just gonna be talking about what they're doing. So that'll be a neat discussion. Anna kind of likes those. Apply more Dr. Pepper there, Steve.
Yeah, that might.
That's down, but no video.
It solves everything with Dr. Pepper.
How about so we're videoless for 2 out of 3 ain't bad. 2 out of 4.
This here, I got to take.
What time is it? Alright, we're good here. Well, hopefully we'll have some vid. Yo, Chuck, connect with Steven if you can, Chuck. See if you can help him with his vid. He's having vid issues.
Yeah.
Chuck just hopped on.
Yeah.
Oh, I got your name now.
Too much playing.
Just sending it. Garbunski to the rescue.
Yep.
A nice DMs round table here tonight.
It was
Oh, I hear Chuck now. I hear Chuck in the background. He's remote.
I turned Skype off so Chuck won't be able to talk.
You may need to reboot it though. You may
Yeah.
need to reboot. And Roger just hopped on. So we have a technical issue tonight. Yeah, that's what Chuck says. You may have to reboot.
Yeah, I mean, like
logging in.
While this is getting fixed, I can do all the pre-shoutouts here. So. It shows you it's all right. So go, Stephen. Go to your box in the lower right-hand corner and shut Skype off, because you may still be in Skype even though you shut it off on your screen. Right. So the resources for Skype still may be allocated on your machine in the background. That may be something you need to do.
Click on the Skype icon down by the clock there and exit it. Yep.
All right. Let me. Dan just sitting there like. These guys, man.
Old dudes is like,
It's old dude.
Hey, listen, I'm 52, so
You're a youngster.
What I'm wondering is this version of Castle of Crusades the same as the one my son picked up like 5 years ago?
I think it is.
First edition. CNC, yeah. With some minor, what they're changing over some stuff to get out of the WotC umbrella, right? You know, so thank you, Grape. Good to see you. So, but you know, I know Stephen can explain a lot of that.
He can explain a little bit. Yep.
Yes, but
I think it's more editorial changes rather than the rules changes and stuff.
And Roger's
my son could use his PHB if I was running it.
Think so.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
I think so. Yep.
So hello everyone. We're getting through some technical problems here with both Stephen and Roger. They're both hopping on and off here, trying to figure out what's going on. And I got we're gonna have a great DMs roundtable tonight. Joining Anna Meyer and me as and it was on a few weeks ago. We got Dan Masucci back to Inkdmage. And Dan, thank you for coming back on.
Oh man, thank you for having me.
And we're gonna have Stephen Chenault, who's trying to figure out why he doesn't have video, and also Roger Moore. So but we have some giveaways tonight, and they're courtesy of Troller Games. So let me set that up. And then I'm going to go over one of them because it's the first time they've ever given this away, which is kind of cool. It's a new thing that they're doing, and I'm going to show you in a second here, everyone. All right, and we're going to give away a couple of gift certificates, and then this will be the first grand prize here for tonight. So watch, I'm going to probably hit a wrong button and crash the stream while everything else is going wrong, right? Just kidding. So here we go. So on their store, they have this, the Castles and Crusades Tervis Cup and Coffee. All right, normally $26.99, right? A set of this. Well, we're going to give this away tonight, one of these. So there you go. We're going to get this, and then we're going to do two $15 gift certificates for any merchandise at all you want from Troller Games. So this will be the first gift tonight. When Steven comes on, we'll talk about it again. Please note that in the shout out here, I've added two things for Trollord, one of our great sponsors, and that is the upcoming next Kickstarter and the coffee link, which for some reason it won't show the whole thing. You have to copy and paste that one in, or it'll go right to your main store. So just note that that's there as well. So as we're look, it's not even 7, so we're ahead of time here. So this is our 14th DMs Roundtable. He's probably rebooting. 14th, Anna.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
I've been on 12 or something like that. Or 13 or something. I wasn't on the first one.
You weren't on the very first one. That was the one you weren't on. Yeah. And you co-hosted a lot of them, Dan. Yep. So we've had a lot of great guests. A lot of them have been my friends that are like, and Tim and William Henry Dvorak's been on a lot. My gosh, though, Steven's been on once before, and that was at a con one. Thank you for the raid in. But Nikki, it's good to see you, Nikki. Yep. But we've had a multitude of guests. We had an all-female cast once for it, and Nikki was on. Nikki was one of the ones on a DMs Roundtable discussion. So it's
we had new DMs once. There were a lot of people who hadn't DM'd much, so to speak. The opposite of this time.
Absolutely.
A lot of us have DM'd too long. Yep.
Yeah, definitely. So while we're waiting for the other two, and we'll ask Dan. Dan, how'd you get to the? We kind of discussed this a little bit on the show, you and me, but from the beginning, like, what drew you to the game?
You know what? I always felt a lure to things that were fantasy, and you know, as a little kid, I remember being drawn to a friend's older brother had D&D books, and just the artwork really, like, you know, just it opened my eyes to like the possibility of like adventuring in realms. But it wasn't until I was a few years older, and my brother, who learned while he was in the Marines, he and his buddies would play, but they were on float, which meant they were like on board of a ship, going from port to port. And so what they would do for fun is play D&D. And actually, he had a dungeon master who had played at Gen Con, with Gary Gygax, and he was somebody who allegedly had his character sheet ripped in half by Gary Gygax. I don't know if that's true, but it's a great story.
Wow.
So started playing as a teen, and pretty much ever since I was 16, with a little bit of a break here and there, but I've been running a regular game, every weekly game for 13 years with the same crew.
That is awesome.
In person.
Mm-hmm. That is fantastic.
But I got my start in Advanced Dungeons and Dragons, and just for the record, I'm not somebody who plays Edition Wars. I love every edition of D&D, because ultimately it's bigger than a company, it's bigger than any individual. It's the shared camaraderie that you experience around the table and the memories you make with the friends that you're playing the game with. And also as a dungeon master and just an aficionado, reading great articles. I miss the old days of Dragon Magazine, and I love looking through the books, and I have to have books. I don't mind using online resources, but man, there is nothing like the look, the feel, and yes, the smell of a D&D book.
A smell of a Troller game book you're holding right there. And I know Steven's having a video. Can you hear us, Steven?
Yes, I can hear you perfectly. I just and I can see everybody. I'm just not getting any from my end.
Well, guess what? If we got to go with only your voice, we'll survive that. We have a bright light in the Roger Moore one. It's like it looks like
I know it's bizarre. I don't know what's going on.
It looks like
we
Mars.
Can hear you. Yeah, we can hear you really well. So you sound good.
It's actually my thoughts projecting into the computer. We'll get fine-tuned later. I don't know what's going on.
Yes. So, Stephen and Roger, thank you for coming on. This is Dan Masucci, the Inkdmage, very well known on Instagram and in other areas. He's got a lot of great terrain and old school gaming as well. So hold up that book you just had up there, Dan. Look what he's showing. Yeah. Oh, look at that, there, Stephen.
For the game, Master.
Oh yes.
Hey,
these babies came in today, and I've wanted to play this. I've wanted to convince my regular crew to play it. I have a couple players who would be a little hesitant. My brother, for example, he's kind of a D&D snob. He doesn't like playing games, even though it's D&D. He doesn't like playing it if it doesn't say D&D. But I'm going to convince him to play this. But my son was the one who first introduced me to Castle and Crusades years ago, and I was like, man, I want to like go further with that. But when I saw these books and the homage to the old school art, I was like, now's the time.
Yep.
Yeah, those covers turned out absolutely fantastic. Dan, I've got someone at my own table, Todd Gray. I've gamed with him since 1985, and he very reluctantly shifted to CNC. I mean, it was a hard fight.
Well, you know what I'm looking forward to, and I love, again, no Edition Wars. I love 5e. I love it, particularly as a DM, because of the ease in which I can run the games. But there is an element, where it is so player friendly that like providing like challenges or it's basically sometimes as the editions went on, became like a superhero game, and the players were like superheroes, and that's cool. I don't mind heroes, but me, I always like John McClane. He gets his ass kicked all over the and he barely makes his saving throws and barely makes his to hits, but he has something really in the end an accomplishment, and I think that gets a little bit lost in the later editions. Now again, that's not a slight on them. I could find like nitpicky things about each edition. Like I said, I love every edition. I'm looking forward to kind of going back into that old school vibe.
I'll put up a fake picture for Steven right now there. There.
If you
don't have it up, we'll put that up there. I don't have one for Roger, but I can put up some great adventures. So some great points there, Dan. So real quick, I know that Stephen didn't catch the beginning, but we do have that. We do have that wonderful coffee giveaway today. So there you go.
Oh, yeah.
First time. Castles and Crusades, Tervis Cup and Coffee will be, and plus two $15 gift certificates. And also, I want to give this homage back out, and you're gonna, Roger, you and Dan will both appreciate this. This is new. This isn't even out yet, so I feel honored to have it. Right, Monsters and Treasures are aired, but let's scroll down here. And two Sunday nights ago, we had a little discussion with our friend Ed Greenwood, and there's the Greenwood Dragon in here. You guys did an homage to Ed, and he really,
yes.
He really appreciated it. So just wanted to let you know.
I did make it an evil dragon, though.
That's okay, because now I get to use it at him at GaryCon next year.
Nice.
Like I always do. I always use stuff against him. So another real quick story. Last night we had our game when Ed Greenwood played and Eric Mengi, and then we had some other streamers play in the game, and Ed has a character Revelantar, and he knows that like my spellcaster is always buffed up, and they always have minor globes of vulnerability up. Like, why wouldn't you, right? So his mage is like, I'm not even going to attempt a spell on her. He charges her with a freaking alchemy jug and tries to pour the cyanide down her throat. And I'm like, this is Ed Greenwood, like doing this shit outside the box. I never thought I'd see Ed doing this. And after the game was over, he goes, Jay, that's only the second time in my life I've ever used an alchemy jug like that. And the first time was when I was playing with Gary Gygax.
Oh,
there you go.
And I said, well, that's good company then, Ed. And he goes, damn straight it is, Jay. And I was like, that was awesome. Just a little side story there from Ed last night. Yeah, more Ed, Curtis. Ed, Ed'll be back on. All right, so Steve,
hang on a second. Sorry, but just one little quick. I'm so sorry we had to cancel our game today because we lost 2 players. One to work, and Amy couldn't make it because she felt ill or something, and Rodney, he had to work. So and he works for Cal Fire, so he needs to work to keep us safe. So we need to.
Understood.
So we had to cancel. We lost half the player base. So I'm sorry about that.
So Stephen, give us a background, and then we'll go to Roger on how you just got started. I mean, you got a good story to tell.
It got started in publishing and in gaming and all that?
How you just got to start playing.
Oh, playing. Yeah, okay. Yeah. So that goes back to 1975 or 6. I really don't know what year it was. I was with my mother, and Davis my older brother had been wargaming for a year or so. We were 10, 12, whatever. He'd be getting the Avalon Hill and SPI games. And 75, whatever it was, my mother went to meet one of my father's soldiers who was going. My dad was a company commander, and this gentleman was going to Korea on a hardship tour, and he had to get rid of all of his stuff. And he had this little stack of books, little brown books that he knew that his commanding officer's son played war games, so he gave him these D&D books, gave my mom these D&D books. I remember standing there when the gift was given, and he I don't remember this, but my mom told me, he said, be careful with these, they're very addictive. So that's how the game, that's how the books got into the house. And Davis told me later, asked him about a year or two ago, because I was 10. I just did what Davis told me to do. He had games. If he wanted to play a game, I would play it. And he said he got D&D, and he read it, and he had no idea what he was supposed to do with it. There was no board, there's nothing like that. So he just put it in the closet, forgot about it. And then about 6 months later, he was reading something somewhere, and God knows where, and it occurred to him what he's supposed to. So he reread it, made me a bunch of characters, and the only thing I had to do was name them. And I was big into Tarzan in those days, so all of my characters were named Tarzan, and then the apes from Tarzan's tribe. So all my 7 characters, they all died very quickly, but that's how we got started. So we started like 75, 76, whatever time frame. And I remember being at Sears when we bought the Monster Manual for the first time.
Yeah, they were in a Sears catalog for Christmas all the time.
Yes, they were.
They were.
It's very, very cool. But yeah, and then we slowly merged AD&D with the little brown books. If my video work, I got them here at the desk. I still have those books. But it's very, very cool. A lot of fun.
And here we are today. Yep. All those years later, your own publishing company, as your 20 plus years now, correct?
Yes, 23 years. We launched in formed the company in '99 and then launched our first product in 2000 at Gen Con. It's where we met Gary Gygax, and then we've been publishing ever since. So 23 years, I guess, pushing 24.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Wow.
I think we'll have some good questions tonight about some things pertaining to all those years of experience.
Hey, I might get knocked. One of my tech guys is fixing to hop in. He thinks he knows what's the problem with my video, so he's gonna.
Okay, and I'll take that picture off whenever we see you pop on there. So awesome. All right.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm just curious, and maybe some of the viewers are curious about this. You know, so I was introduced to D&D by, you know, my brother, and it was, you know, that was like 87. So it was pretty well established. I mean, you're starting out when the game was starting out. I mean, like, what was it like first, like looking at those original rules? And like, I mean, because I mean, nothing like that had been around before.
You know, I remember, I didn't read a lot of it. Davis read most of that stuff, and he kind of told me how this was going to play and what to do. And he gave me the dice. I don't know. We've been playing the war games for about maybe a year. I don't know. He'd probably been playing a little bit longer than me. He's a little bit older. But for me, it's hard to describe because I was deep into Tarzan, and I just started reading Green Lantern comic books. I just started getting into the comic book scene, you know, the whole thing. And of course, there's not really many movies in those days, if any superhero movies in those days, or TV shows or anything like that. So it's all up in your head. Every bit of it is, you know. So when these books came out, and the dice were just badass, and it was cool to watch Davis kind of just sit there and spin these weird scenarios that I really didn't know what was going on. I hadn't even read The Hobbit at this point. I didn't know what orc was. I will tell you this, I can vividly remember my first battle with an orc. It scared the crap out of me. I didn't know what was going on. I mean, I had no idea, no reference points. And even in those days, Davis ran a pretty brutal game. And of course, it wasn't really a role-playing game like we know now. You know, I do a lot of role-playing when I run games. There's a whole lot of character development, all that.
Yeah.
It wasn't a whole lot of that back then. It was a war game, you know, in minuscule, sort of survived this crazy scenario. And I lost so many characters. I lost 17 characters in one night. I remember that.
17?
17. It was, I just kept making this character killed and make a new one, and get killed and make a new one until Davis finally said, all right, you have drained the village of all of the villagers.
I never heard that story before, Steven. That's awesome.
That's awesome.
Wow, I think that's got to be a record.
It's got to be up there.
Oh my gosh, that's great.
I don't know. That is a great question, and I don't think about it very often because it was just another game that we were playing, but it was so different, you know, than the chit race games that we were setting up. We would flip. I was on a trundle bed. Many people don't know what that is. One bed rolls under the other bed. Davis had the top bunk, and I had the trundle, and we would flip the mattress off the trundle and set the SPI or Avalon Hill games up, and I just sleep on the floor because it might take a couple of days to, you know.
Right, you don't want to. Yeah, you don't want to move those.
Yeah, you can't sneeze on those things or whatever, getting shits all over the place. But D&D was so very, very different. I do remember when the Advanced Dungeons and Dragons Player's Handbook came out. And by that time, he had bought all these box sets. I wasn't reading any of it. I don't know what came out when, but he was kind of merging all of this stuff together. And he gave me the Player's Handbook and told me I had to read that. And I said, I'm not reading that. Just tell me what my characters can do. I'm not going to read all that. That's crazy.
Oh, that's
it was nuts.
Yeah, that's a great story. I never heard that before. 17 in one night. My gosh, I don't think I've ever had that many.
I had a character made it to 3rd level a year into the game, and we played almost every day for the first. I was 15 when we started playing back in 79, 80, and I think the big difference compared to now is that we didn't know anybody else who played. Right. We had no meaning. What we did was we realized someone printed these things. We only had a Xerox copy. Someone had been in the US and imported a set here, so we had one set of dice for the whole group, and we had one set of Xerox copies of the one of the early boxes. We don't know if it was brown box, white, one of the boxes, so to speak. And then we bought the red boxes, the Mensa red box, and so we upgraded after that. After a few months, there was a company, a store in Gothenburg that actually had them, so we bought them and we got dice after like 6-9 months or something. And we asked down there and said, yeah, we just got these and we don't know what it is, and some people playing them, you're the second people that bought them, do you know what it is? And we like, yes, we know what it is. And then it kind of started to take off from there. I did Bilbo and started to get into it a little bit. And then we found out after probably about 2 years or so, oh, they're Dragon magazines. You can buy magazines. There are lots, so there are thousands of people over in the US. We knew they were made in the US and they were in English, of course. So and I terrorized my English teacher with all these little words that about olfactory. What is that? And she was like, I don't know. And she was she hated me for it because I come with this little damn booklet again, and this little damn booklet. So I had my aviation books and my role playing game books, and I terrorized and so I was the menace. She gave me the top. She gave me the highest grade just to get rid of me, I think. So, that's awesome. So that was it. But anyways, so that was, I think the big thing was that we did it in isolation. We had to figure everything out. There was no one else, no internet. There was no one to ask. We just had to figure it out, so to speak.
No,
I think that was the big
difference.
I do
remember there was the only connection we had with the outside world was this little bitty comic book shop. We were in Kentucky at the time. Little bitty comic book shop. And then Davis did mail order wargaming for the Hyborian world. I still have his letters from that. They would send letters back to where their troops moved back and forth. And that was about it. I even remember that in the 70s when I was playing, it wasn't associated with geekdom at all. It was just another game. And so few people were playing it anyways.
We didn't know it was uncool. We thought it was just something we did. And we didn't know that it was cool or not, so to speak. No one else understood.
Jay, here's a funny one for you. I don't know if I've ever told this story, but I remember, I don't know how we got on. Who's the guy who did the little pamphlets that were witches and stuff?
Oh, the Dark Dungeons?
Yeah, the Kick Track or whoever that guy.
The ones he'd insert into the players' handbooks and stuff at the stores.
Yeah, and it was like these little witch cartoons. We're all going to go to hell or whatever. I remember we started getting those in the mail in the late 70s, 78. And the only place I can figure they got our address was from Mile High Comics, because Davis was buying comics from Mile High Comics. But I remember we read them, we just thought they were funnier than crap. I mean, they're absolutely hilarious. But I do remember my dad was with my dad, and we stopped somewhere, a rest area or something, and I was going to the bathroom, and there was one of these things on the back of the commode. And I thought, what is this? What is this thing doing here in the middle of nowhere? Yeah, there you go. I remember those things coming to our house. It was so weird. I don't know.
We're gonna teach you how to. Yeah, we're gonna teach you how to cast real spells now. Yeah, and all. Yeah, it's scared of crap. And then I am not. Where's the very end? What do they do at the very end?
Yeah.
They burn books. Just like all totalitarian societies do. When you want to get rid of information, they just put all the D&D books in a pile and burn them. So I mean, but the game, there was a lot of stuff that was so on the edge back then. I'm so glad we're past that. Let's get Roger in on this discussion. Roger.
Yes.
How'd you look? You were probably the elder statesman here. Which is, I'm saying that lovingly. So, how'd you get started, Roger? I mean, in the gaming world, and start and write some unbelievable adventures. I know you said your favorite all time was what I put in place of your picture, the dancing hut of Baba Yaga. So,
yes, I would say it got started. I had read The Hobbit. I read Lord of the Rings. This was in the early 70s. I was in college. It must have been about 1975. My first wife and I knew a mutual friend named Sheila Wise, who I turned into a halfling goddess, Sheila the Wise, Sheila Perry Royal.
Oh, wow, the goddess.
Yes.
Awesome.
So she was the first person we ever knew who played Dungeons and Dragons. They were using the original books at that time, the little tan covers in the white box. She said she played in a group where they all use little beans for characters and everything, but we couldn't figure out what that was about. Well, I joined the Army. I was transferred to Fort Bragg, North Carolina, and at that point, I think it's been renamed now, but Fort Bragg fell in with a group of Dungeons and Dragons players after visiting a hobby store where all the people had posted their names and everything like that to get groups. So the group we started with lasted for about a year before I was transferred over to West Germany, when there was a West Germany. So everything in my past in the Army has all disappeared now, so it no longer exists. But we started gaming there. I went through a whole bunch of first level characters. I finally got one character who got up to 6th level, and before he was a gnome character. I think he was Cyrano de Bergerac. And I've been fond of very, very bad ones, but he was bitten by a poisonous snake and died, and so I was kind of burnt out about that. Yeah. But it was a good start for the whole thing. There was quite a few people in the gaming group, all officers and enlisted people who were just kind of, we played on Saturdays and just sort of took off the uniforms, so to speak, and just had a lot of fun. That was a really great time. And then transferred over to Germany and fell in with another group. This was in Mannheim, where I worked at a mental health facility that was outside the main gates at Sullivan Barracks. And we'd meet up in the mental health facility because nobody was using it on the weekends. So that was where we really got involved in a lot of Dungeons and Dragons, Traveler, Gamma World, just kind of playing a lot of everything. It was a great time. And that was about the time that I started writing for Dragon magazine, because a lot of my clients wouldn't show up at the mental health clinic because they didn't want to go to mental health. They were being referred over by the command, and so they wouldn't show up for their appointments. And so to kill time, I would start writing articles for Dragon, and that was kind of how I got involved in all that. Ed Greenwood had already been published by that time. He got in before I did, and we became contributing editors. And when I got out of the Army, went back to Louisville and just kind of moved around for a while and kept playing over and over. So that was a lot of fun. But wound up playing with the attorney for one of the lawyers who worked for Kentucky Senator Gene Snyder, which was pretty funny. We played in their law offices, and that was a lot of fun. But, that was cool. It was great. And just kept playing.
And writing. And
eventually one day I was going to the University of Louisville, getting a degree in more advanced degree in psychology, and was having a lot of difficulties with one of the classes, and was complaining about it. And my wife said, "Why don't you just write to TSR and see if they have a job for you?" And I thought, well, that's a dumb idea. And after a while, I thought about it. I thought, well, you know what? She's kind of got a point. Actually, she has a pretty good point. So I wrote, they did have a job opening.
That's awesome.
Yes. And so I started working for Dragon Publishing, working directly for Dragon Magazine with Kim Mohan of blessed memory. And I started doing all that, and the rest was history. So, I got at TSR, stayed for 17 and a half years through thick and thin, and moved on. I work now mostly in mental health. I work entirely in mental health for the state of South Carolina. But I still write stuff. It's gone into the Earth Journal.
Yep.
Yep. And so I'm just, I've got a line of articles up for publication on the Greyhawk thing. Just adding.
Awesome. Yep.
Let's share. I want to share one paragraph of one of my favorite publications from a legendary dragon, Dragon 60, and just show you Roger's sense of humor. Okay. You know what I'm going to, Roger. Plus my conflict with, it's the Midgets in the Earth article by Roger Moore. And it says here, the purpose of this article is to add an element of confusion and outrage to otherwise typical encounters whenever the DM is in a lousy mood. These characters presented here are drawn from the pages of arcane texts and eldritch volumes of literature almost as old as yesterday's newspaper. The fact that I authored those texts reflects in no way upon the authenticity of the following material, and the reader is encouraged to regard these beings as utterly factual and real. The author also has some real estate in the Everglades for those who are interested in seaside property, which leads to my dilemma with Spunk. And I talked to you about this. I can't put Spunk in and You've been had directly. I got to change the name there, Stephen, in Altamira, because Roger wrote such a funny, great article, and I have Spunk in my game, the Short People's Union for Nefarious Kleptomaniacs, right? So we got to change that name because I guess WotC and Hasbro will kind of own Spunk. So yes, with You've been had. That's the level of Roger's wit. And then we got some great, Return of the Eight, and we have all the articles. It's just been a wonderful, wonderful. Roger has contributed so much to the flavor and the of the Greyhawk setting and others too, and we really appreciate it. So I'm gonna ask a question here. I always ask this question first. Who's your inspiration for your DMing? Maybe you pulled some ideas from them. Who do you like say, wow, that's the person? We'll go with all three, and whoever wants to answer it first can.
I was going to say really quickly that actually when I was at TSR, I was talking with one of the editors in the book department who explained that the kind of writing that they were looking for was described as cinematic. They wanted books that you could easily visualize as a movie. And that affected greatly a lot of my writing, where I began to try and write cinematically or be a dungeon master cinematically, so to speak. Oh, I see.
One down.
Excellent. Yes. But so writing cinematically was really the key for all that. And being a dungeon master, trying to describe the situation, keeping descriptions mostly short, but also trying to add some punch to them when I was doing stuff.
Excellent. So did you take any inspiration from Ed or Kim Mohan or Gary or?
No, not as far as like dungeon mastering. No, okay. I'd say I probably took more from Tolkien.
Okay.
Just as far as trying to give the game worlds a certain amount of weight and form and everything, but primarily it was a cinematic kind of thing. I was DMing a movie, and I wanted people to be involved in that movie.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Dan, Stephen, you want to take that up? Your inspiration is to become the DM that you are today.
Well, you know what? I'm a forever DM now, but I grew up as a player. I DM'd infrequently. I had ideas, but I didn't have the chops. But I had two incredible dungeon masters, some of my high school best friends, who were like schizophrenic, not in real life, but when they DM, they could come up with characters improv on the spot that felt every bit as real as though they planned it for weeks. In fact, that didn't even occur to me. I just assumed they populated their world with every figure you would ever need to meet because they were so readily at their fingertips. So early on, my two best friends, even my brother Joe, who introduced me to the game, I haven't played with any celebrity DMs, but I was really inspired back in 4th edition. Chris Perkins wrote a weekly article called The DM Experience, and you can still find a PDF collection of that. And there was such great information in there, such like his tips and his advice was so stellar. That has definitely inspired me. And again, I know, without getting into feelings about editions, like the second there was a Dungeon Master 2 guide, Dungeon Master's Guide 2 in 4th edition. And it doesn't matter what edition you use. There's such, I think it was James Wyatt had such solid advice in there. It's stellar. So I guess, they're my two best friends growing up, and Chris Perkins and James Wyatt, I would say.
Oh, there we go. We're almost
I think
there.
Roger
is,
yeah. It was something on the camera.
Mm-hmm. My camera's working.
Yes, we got all of it. We got the whole crew.
That's awesome.
It took us a while, but we made it.
So Dan,
sorry about.
Oh, it's
I
okay,
actually
Roger.
I had a sticker on the camera. So I didn't.
Okay, Roger.
That was it.
I had that the last time.
Yeah. nothing I can do about it.
So Dan, that's a good story. So you took it from some of the resources that were out there. A lot of that were okay, really cool.
That's great.
All right, Stephen, is it your brother or more, or is
it's Davis? I gamed with Davis from 75 whenever up until I started running my own. We moved to Germany in 80, I think, and then I shifted from there. And I remember there's so many poignant moments in gaming with Davis. I remember when we were playing once, 78, probably 79, and he my character Kane had a Vorpal sword, and I decapitated a Tyrannosaurus Rex. And I remember him; he was just looking at it for the longest time, and I could still see his expression, like, "Yeah, that's not going to happen. We're not doing that." And that was the first time that realism was kind of interjected. We started to realize what you could do with these little books. So it's Davis, and he runs. To this day, he's my favorite DM. I absolutely love. He doesn't run much anymore, but he's just got this eye for detail and storytelling, and and I try to bleed that over into whatever, without a doubt, Davis. I do want to make a small point, if I can, now that Roger and I have shown up. So, Mr. Moore, you don't know this, but we have crossed paths once, long, long ago. I submitted an adventure to TSR for publication, and you rejected it, but you sent it back to me. I have it somewhere around here. Your notes are all over that adventure, and they were very kind and very nice. And it was the softest rejection I've ever got. So that is very, very cool.
Wow.
Yeah, I wish I could find it. I looked the other day, and I know
man,
that is awesome.
That is.
Well, I'm glad I wasn't a jerk. That would have been.
No, you certainly were not.
Well, I'm glad for that.
And we'll see Roger's cats wandering about. Just note that, which is cool.
Oh yes, wonderful cats. I love cats. Oh, look at that. That's
nice
so cute.
tortie. I love torties.
Yep.
Love torties.
Can't do anything about it. So,
Anna, I know you got some good questions for these three gentlemen.
Yeah, I was thinking first kind of what the difference between running games as a DM or playing. Is DMing a chore or a pleasure, so to speak, compared to gaming? I was thinking, is it something you do because someone needs to run the game, or is DMing a passion that you even prefer before playing, so to speak? Or is it more like a chore? Someone needs to do it, so damn, or what's the compared to playing? Yeah.
Who wants to
go for it?
Roger, please.
Say it's both.
Okay. Yeah.
It's both. It's a chore and a pleasure. I mean, it's a lot of fun to do, but it's a chore. I mean, you got to do a lot of work to get everything set up. It's got to make sense. You have to think about all the details that are involved in it and get everything to work. And you have to get it all done right before the game starts, And I've had a couple of accidents, in the middle of the game where all of a sudden it was like, I shouldn't have done that. That part did not belong there, but for the most part, I was able to get my way through all that. Give me that. Quit doing that.
Has it changed when the longer you DMing, has it become more of a passion the more you've done it, or was it a passion, or is it still a chore, so to speak?
It's still a little of both.
Okay.
Both. I haven't done very much DMing recently. I mean, the last time I was a dungeon master was for a Pathfinder game. 4 or 5 years ago now. I think the group is broken up, but but I enjoyed it greatly. I was running a Pathfinder campaign in the year 1427 in Renaissance Italy, and it was involving a lot of the traditional monsters and everything. Thank you for giving me that back and not eating it. And it just made a lot of. Come on, guys. It just was a lot of fun to run. I was using as much history as I could, and as well as fantasy. And so everything in medieval Italy was called a dragon, even if it was a turtle. If it's a reptile, they call it a dragon. If it's a cockatrice, it's a dragon. So just a different kind of dragon, but they're all dragons. So it was a lot of fun.
Awesome. So Dan, well, what's your take on the labor of being a DM? Yeah.
I mean, I have to agree with Roger. When it's a chore, though, I think for me, it's mostly a chore because somewhere I have gone sideways with the story, and I have to course correct, or I haven't given myself enough time to prepare for the game. And that's kind of a juggling act too. And yet one of the things I like about it, I love being prepared for as many eventualities as possible, but I also try and be flexible in my improv so that I could pivot at any moment for player unpredictability, which happens all the time. I mean, you can put out the lure for them, but they're gonna be drawn to something else, and then you have to quickly pivot. And because I like a game to be immersive, whether I'm playing in it or running, and I mostly run, I want it to be immersive for the players. I want them to feel invested in not just the story, but the world and the characters. And that is a lot of work. It's a lot of work. And sometimes, it's a thankless job, I have some and I have my group of players, and maybe the other DMs will feel me on this, that some of them are story driven and they could care less about the mechanics. Others are mostly focused on the mechanics, on what their characters can do, what they're working toward doing when they level up. And so juggling those different types of players, sometimes it can feel like a chore, but I wouldn't trade it. I love it. It's a chore, it's work, it's a passion. I really, maybe even an obsession, but I do. I love it.
Mm-hmm. Dan and I have an increased layer of work for DMing too because of our terrain.
You're doing it.
And my players joke, if I throw down a 2D map, or maybe I don't put anything out on the table for terrain, or because I'm waiting to see what they're going to do, they'll bust my hump and they'll look at the table and it's the 2D map, and they'll go what am I looking at?
Yeah.
Am I supposed to imagine something?
Mm-hmm. You spoil them. Yep.
Yeah, and it's weird because some of my most memorable games as a player were the early years in Theater of the Mind, and it's vivid in my imagination still.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
I'm just showing them
awesome.
I'm just going on your Instagram and showing you some of what we discussed a little while ago.
Yep.
But some great
Wow.
stuff. Some wonderful setups.
Fantastic.
And it takes time, and time is something that we all only have so much time of our existence, and that takes up a lot of what we do, and it could be hours doing this, tear down, setup, and all. And that's another thing. It's tedious work, but it's something that we do it because we love it, right? And that's the wonderful thing about the game. There's no right or wrong way to play, and if you want to play with miniatures and terrain, go for it. But it's going to take you more time.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's
so,
gorgeous.
Steve, have troll? Yeah. Sorry, that was awesome, Dan. So Steve, have Troll Lord Games convinced you that DMing is now a pleasure beyond gaming, running games, or playing?
Troll Lord Games does its best to convince me that gaming is exhausting. But
yep.
I read the same stuff. But I love to run games far more than I like. I'll play once in a blue moon.
Yeah.
I infinitely prefer to behind the screen running the game. And I don't really know why that is. I like storytelling. I like the whole, interactive storytelling, because I encourage the players to jump in and make their own, lore and whatnot. But I will say, as soon as they get any game I'm running, as soon as they get to probably an 8th level, maybe 9th, it starts becoming a chore. It's not the running the game. Yeah, the prep is so much more because you got to have all these spells and abilities and magic items. Yeah, and you can't just make it up. If they're 3rd level, you can just make crap up and go fast. But at 10th level,
you're dead on.
I'm running a game now. They're about 11th level, and they can deal out around about 60 points of damage. I got to prep for that.
Plus, you got to get sneaky.
Yeah. Damage reduction has become my favorite tool, let me tell you.
Yeah.
For me, it's magic resistance, like I did last night on them. I threw a skeleton warrior against them, and they just had no idea what to do. 90% magic resistance.
Yeah.
They're like, I don't know, so.
Wait, how did you let them get 90% magic resistance?
Well,
that's what they have. That's what they have.
Jade, let's.
That's what they have in the frame folio.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
Skeleton warriors have 90% magic resistance.
Yep. Wow.
The Fiend Folio, the book of death. If any player saw me pick that book up, they knew pain was coming.
Yep.
But
it's terrible. Yep.
But someone got smart, and I'm going to shout out that person, Myriad. She actually figured out that the necromancer had the circlet on, controlling it, and she snuck up, invisible, and took it off the head of the necromancer. And when that happened, that Skeleton Warrior turned and went right after the necromancer and destroyed her.
That was awesome.
I thought you said a player had.
Oh no! The Skeleton Warrior had 90%.
Yep.
Oh yeah.
That is perfectly fine.
Yeah, no problem. Yeah.
Dan, you think like a true DM. It's like, the monster has it. No problem.
Right?
Yeah.
For me, it's kind of interesting. I'm such a chronic over-prepper that I turned it into my career. So for me, it's like prepping is the most fun part. And then I'm terrified when we're going to start a game. And then as soon as the game starts and I'll see the players like it, then it's wonderful again. So it's that, just like going on stage when they're beginning and before we get the feel at the table, I'm like, damn, I'm supposed to drive this and nothing happens. No one is having fun. But as soon as I see them start asking questions and we get in there, then it becomes wonderful again. So it's that trepidation, the first half hour, 45 minutes. As soon as we got it going, then I'm good again. But I love to map, of course, but also the general prepping, world building. That's my passion, even more than actual gaming, weirdly enough. Yeah,
for Anna, it is definitely, which is cool. Everyone's got their different style. I'm about to cough here, but I want to get my question in. Mm-hmm. Steven has a show, Tricks of the Trade, right? You've had it forever.
Yeah.
Allergies, excuse me. Everyone, give me something each of you do that's unique as a DM. It's a rule or a little quirk you have. So who wants to go?
Steve, please.
Probably the thing I do the most commonly is the death swing. When anyone's going negative, no matter what they've done that round, they get one last action before their character goes under. So they can take another swing, cast a spell or something, and it gives them a last hurrah before they're out of the combat for the next, 5 or 10 minutes or whatever it is.
Okay.
I love the death swing.
What if it's a Cure Light Wound spell?
Well, some of them get that, and frequently I will make them do, if they're going to do a complicated spell, I'll make them do an attribute check. But yeah, some of them get very creative with that.
Yeah.
You got to be careful.
But it's that's a great one.
It's really cool. My players would love that. I can tell you.
Yeah. Anna would never do that. No. That's a killer GM. In fact, all the time they're like, no more Anna custom rules for our table, Jay. No more. Yeah. So, Dan and Roger, what do you got?
Yeah.
Something you do. It could be a little. I don't use this rule.
I'll let the other gentleman go first. I want to think for a minute more.
Okay, go ahead, Dan.
Okay, so, something I do, and we talked about this last time we spoke, Jay. It happened because I was running modified for 5th edition, but 2nd edition's Dragon Mountain, and I wanted the players to experience a sense of time, and I wanted them to be involved, but I didn't want to create I didn't want to do the dungeon crawl as long as it was. So I created an award system, including where you could win a level, you could get a magic item, you get certain things. You had to bring a story of 3 days in the mountain from your perspective and read it. And so each person, so I had 5 players at the time. So, they went around and they told an experience for the characters traveling for 3 days. So it covered 15 days of travel in the mountain. And it was so amazing to sit back as a DM and be entertained by their stories. And I've used that type of thing, without the rewards, if to cover, I don't want to do a long montage or necessarily come up with all sorts of battles to cover a month or 2 months worth of travel.
Right.
So I would have them highlight and talk about what happened, what you saw. And it could include combat. It could include role playing, whatever it was, but no dice were rolled. You just tell me how it happened. of course, I have the right to reject anything that like fell outside of like what other characters.
Great idea.
Do. And also if it ultimately intruded on the story, and things they didn't know about. But it worked out. It worked out so good, and they were so creative, and it was so entertaining to see them embrace it, and to see how well they knew the other characters when they wrote them. But it was like you could see it was skewed just a little bit, as all our views are by our own experience and the way we look at things. So that was a really interesting thing. I did that. I started that, I think, 2 years ago, and I've included it ever since.
That's awesome.
Two comments on that, and that's so. A lot of people hate the travel time, and you've made it fun, right? Yeah. Oh, I got to travel here, and some people go, "Well, we're going to do all the camp night," and people, that gets boring. So that's an awesome way of doing it. It also reminds me of a TV show where that summer months from one episode to another, where the show's not on. Now what did they do all that time? And that's what you're filling in that gap. Which is and you're making your players vested by their participating and adding the content, which is great. It's fantastic. Roger, what do you got?
Okay, I've got one. This one was kind of 50% success, 50% meh, and everything. But when I was running the Renaissance Pathfinder campaign, it was I made up my mind I was going to do it by a calendar. So I did a medieval calendar, went back and did all the research, and marked off all the the months and everything like that, and the holy days and things like that. So they enjoyed that. But we marked down all of the time that took place in the campaign on the calendar, which was a bit tedious as it turned out. However, it was very interesting to find out that after a year of real world playing, they'd only gone through about a month of game time, that everything was compacted, and tremendously within the game world and everything. And a great deal got accomplished. They, became a full-fledged group. They got a name. They were became helpers of the city of Florence, Italy, and they were doing all sorts of stuff, that actually turned out to take about 4 weeks in game time, which was pretty amazing considering how long it took to get it all set up in the real world. But I would count that mostly as a success, because it did clarify what was going on in the campaign, and that helped quite a bit. So just having it run by a calendar and marking off the time that was actually used turned out to really reveal some things that were quite surprising. So,
yeah, I love that, Roger. And I use that especially because if I have NPCs and stuff that are traveling, like one of the villains is traveling from this place, and I'd say it will take him 3 days to reach this place. Yes. And then that way I don't know exactly when in the story that will come. Depends on what the characters do, so to speak. So when they've arrived, done so many things, and it's taken 3 days, that's when the villain will come. And that is so much fun. So keep track of time gets you a lot of these kind of interesting things that happen, so to speak.
And being able to use a calendar that was actually relevant to the game world that was being used, that made a difference. Cool.
Yep.
It was quite nice.
I'm too lazy about that, and it's dumb of me. But it would I think it also would be very helpful to do that, to do what you're doing and maintain a calendar. And I really I need to incorporate more.
Yep. To constrain yourself as a DM. I was going to bring another stuff up, but that's something I often do. I constrain what I can do as a DM. So in order to. And having a calendar and keep, like, I can't just introduce a villain just because I want to. Is like I said, that villain is there. It will take him so long to come by horseback or walking or whatever it is, and that keeps the campaign interesting long term, so to speak. When I have to kind of work around, meaning if they go murder hobbing, there are no enemies around. They can just go around slaughtering, so to speak, for 3-4 days. But then every villain comes, so to speak, when they notice what's going on because they are fleeing, and then they get this. So that's one of the characteristics for me, very sandboxy, even for the enemies, so to speak. But one other quirk that I think as a DM that I do, I try to explain everything, not to the player, but to the character. Meaning if a player plays a first level character that doesn't understand much about the world, a newbie that never been around before, I try to explain it to the character who never seen anything like it. But if the player, even if it's a newbie player, plays a 15th level warrior or ranger or someone that has been around the bend, done 6 wars and slain 2 dragons, they would not get impressed. They will see through things and understand it, so to speak. So I try to explain it to the character, not to the player.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. It's good because, like the players, if you have good players, and at least how I think about, when I play is forgetting how much
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you'll never experience that same magic like your first game, when you could walk on water by bringing it around. But like to role play that and to limit the knowledge that and not metagame, it's
yeah. But on the other hand, it's problematic when you do it like I do, because old school playing, where it's a lot of adversarial, meaning that the DM needs to figure out things that the players fall into, like traps and all that stuff. That doesn't work well with my approach. But if you don't run it adversarial, then my system works, so to speak. But it depends. But that goes with a lot of things in DM. Depends on your play style, what you and your players prefer, so to speak. How you want things around the table. What's the purpose of the game for you around your table? Yeah.
This is not putting the 3 of you on the spot, but if any of you want to ask any of the other 3 or the whole panel a question, please do. But if not, Anna and I can keep on going, and we'll open it up to the audience as well.
Yeah, please.
Go ahead, Dan.
I have a question.
Please.
For your experience, like, so because I have some players who like want to draw like real world stuff in, like my one player, he's a Marine. He's like, well, listen, I could swim in 90 pounds of gear and all this. And I was like, yeah, but it was made in such a way now that it allows you to do that. Swimming in armor is not possible. What is your stance on that? Listen, in 4th edition, you could swim in plate armor, and it was like, okay, rules is written, you could do it. Again, the DM does have the ultimate say, but where do you stand on that? Can you swim in armor or no swimming in armor?
That for me, that always lands in the character background. If you want to have the ability to do that, you're going to have to build some kind of character background that allows you to do that. You know what I mean? Not everybody. That Marine might be able to swim with a 90-round rucksack, but most people can't swim with a 90-pound rucksack. And certainly not a wizard who's been studying in a university for 38 years or whatever it is. So first thing I do is I'll roll into, just to make them build some kind of background. It's got to have some kind of realism to it if you're going to bring that realism into the game. And then this is where CNC for me, and the old AD&D with the Wilderness and the Dungeoneer Survival guys did this. But the attribute checks turn that around real fast. Yeah, you can dive into that water with that 90-pound ruck. I can guarantee that Marine doesn't do it often because that's not the ideal way to swim. So you're going to make a lot of attribute checks, whether you get sucked off down that river and drown or what have you. So if any of the players want to bring in this real world stuff, and it happens all the time, mostly at my table with chemists, there's like 2 chemists at my table. It's just ridiculous with the chemistry. I mean, it's a game. Stop with the chemistry.
Setting, yeah.
Metal burns or fire. I don't know. Whatever. Whatever.
Gosh. All right.
Yeah, you've got to curtail that a little bit because it gets nutty.
Yeah. Yeah, I have one player. He always asks, like, they're in a tunnel, and he's like, all right, is there any wind? And I'm like, yeah, there's a little wind. Which direction is it coming from?
Yeah.
It's like, who gives a shit? That's so
But it's the engineering approach. I played in the beginning, I played with a lot of engineers and stuff, and it was all about the physics and does this work? And what I usually do is that I usually allow a lot of that stuff, but that also means that the monsters get better at it. If they can do it, a monster that is like cat-like can do even more. If they can jump 10 feet, a cat-like thing can jump 30 feet easily. So I just boosted the monsters, and if they can do all the things, and I can see a little bit in the dark, then there are monsters that can see everything from a distance, so to speak. And so I try to when I meet these engineering types, so to speak, that want to over-engineer the game, I don't throw the rule book after them, because then you get the lawyer type and you get discussions. I do it. Yeah, I simply boost the monsters and have that at them. If they want to be super, the monsters, meaning they survived in here, these things have lived here for hundreds of years, is their cave, they know all of it. And if they want to swim with armor, there are things they can swim way faster than them anyway. So my advice is get to it from an in-game, from a story perspective, not from the rules perspective.
Yeah, I think that's some players just like that's why I want to direct it, but they cling.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
They want to apply real world practical situations that they understand and have knowledge about, and then ignore it later when
exactly. It's only their benefit. If the monster starts doing it too, then it's not as much fun. So yeah.
I gamed for years with Sarah Clem. She was a water ecologist here in Arkansas, and I remember I was describing they were going down a river, and I said, I can't remember now. I'll get all the. If she were here, she would correct me. I said your canoe gets stuck in river muck. I think I said, and then she said, "Wait a minute, in muck?" And I said, "Yeah, kind of sludge into your floor. You can't have muck in a river." I was like, "Wait, what?" And this whole discussion about silt and muck, it was just it was hilarious. I mean, it was frustrating because it log jammed the game.
Yeah.
But, it was rather
never have someone who rides horses for a living or something in your game. That's I had that. That was terrible. Yeah. I'm not a rider myself, and oh god, we had all sorts of horses don't do this, whatever shit all the time. So it's terrible.
What about torchlight? Like, I mean, torches, okay, like in this edition, and I think maybe even in Pathfinder, it was, it's like, 20 feet of bright light from a torch, 20 feet, and then 20 feet dim light. That's 40 feet of light. Now, torches, I mean, is it really that bright, or is it like more like in a close proximity around you?
Right. Oh, yeah.
Yep.
You're getting all the... I always have to fight with my guys and say it's a fantasy setting, guys. Give me a break. Especially with, we all know, the ever mysterious Tim. I am looking for, I can't find them. So we have these fumble tables, and they're special ones when Tim's there. And if he rolls on it, says, slip and fall stun 1 to 6 round unless you're a Tim character. And then it goes in, Alan wrote this in this diatribe of 2 paragraphs. You're too buff to fall and slip, but you popped because you're flexing while you're not slipping. Your bicep has popped, right? You know what I mean? Just to even knowing how Tim's an ex-military guy, everyone knows, and so same thing. The military guys. So we have the tables just to bust his balls. On it, because he's going to argue. Well, that's not reality. That's not going to happen to my character. Yeah. So
and the audience can draw the conclusion we all played too long.
Exactly. That's the one thing about it. So, any input on this one, Roger?
I was with a group that was prone to argue a couple of rules issues, mainly about hit points and about how much damage a particular weapon would do. We just kind of skipped over that, but the main point that they were making was, like in first edition AD&D, mainly around was 1 minute long, and people would make the point, that I can do a lot more in 1 minute than you're talking about. And hit points, I mean, if I get stabbed, if I have 60 hit points and I get stabbed with a dagger so many times, that doesn't make any sense, and stuff like so. But the thing that they weren't getting into was that Gary Gygax I think it was in the Dungeon Master's Guide, had already explained what a melee round entailed, which was a lot of feints and attacks and everything like that. And then a hit point was not physical damage. A hit point reflected a wide range of stuff, luck, unused ability, and things like that. If somebody did 5 points of damage to you and you had 60 hit points, that didn't mean you got stabbed in the chest. That means you're wearing out. The attack is subtracting stuff out of you. Now, eventually that's going to come out of you in physical damage, but that's going to be further down there, somewhere around when you get to the 10 to 12 hit point range. Then now you're taking real damage. But Gary had an excellent elaboration on what a melee round meant and what hit points were. And when you're able to take out these things and say, this is what we're using, as hit points and melee round, then most people will go, oh, okay, and then they'll kind of drop it. The problem is that you have to really dig into the material in the Dungeon Master's Guide and other places to really get it out. I mean, he would drop these gems, but they were buried gems, They weren't immediately presented on the explanation of hit points and things like that. So you had to kind of dig around a little bit, but you could successfully work with it.
Yeah. This is why I'm not playing modern games when you have firearms and stuff, and because I was in the military, and when we get into it, I'm like, no, it doesn't work that way. So I become that obnoxious player. So that's why I try to avoid all the sci-fi, especially all the modern games. Like, no, I don't play those. Yeah.
All right, I got a funny question from the audience. I'm going to do this one quick from Antiquitous. Steven, is the 10-foot pole as popular in Castles and Crusades as it is in old school D&D?
Great question.
Not that I know of.
That's a great question.
That's a good one.
Yes.
I got some other better ones.
I'm going to say it's because Davis and I do most of our module writings, and neither of us like traps, so we don't put traps in there. And you really need that 10-foot pole for traps.
Yep.
That was a good question.
I think I don't know if it was the last Kickstarter Reaper did, but they put out a great
overbear.
And it's the guy holding a 10-foot stick. And
that's awesome.
That
and I love it. My players actually they hired a couple of henchmen, and one is a guy bearing a lantern, and the other guy's with a 10-foot pole.
And then there's the overburdened guy they got, the picture of him with all the packing gears.
Oh, that's awesome.
I remember in high school frustrating this dude. He wasn't like a regular DM. I don't even know. He was somebody who played sometimes, and he was a DM, and I think he was running a module, and I used a 10-foot stick. I took a dead enemy, and the character was strong, so I kind of like lifted up a dead person on that stick, and I would thrust him into rooms, and then all the sneak attacks would happen on that body. And gamers, we thought it was hilarious.
Yeah.
My guys used to do the freaking bag of chickens. I'm like, those chickens aren't deadly quiet. They throw them against the doors, the ear seekers, and all that stuff. I'm like, no chickens, no bags of chickens, guys.
So now you 5e players, it wasn't better before. The old times weren't better than
today. All insane.
We're all. Everyone's trying to get in.
We did so many stupid things back then.
Oh my gosh!
Let me tell you, I run 2 tables now. One, my Thursday night game is people my age, and then the Sunday game is a bunch of. They're all Zoomers. They're all like 21 and younger. And I've had this philosophy for a while. As a DM, you should say yes more than you say no, and that if you say yes more than you say no, it encourages the players to do all kinds of stuff. Man, I'm not with these guys. It's just no. If someone starts to ask a question, I just say no before they finish it. Because the insanity that they ask from their video game backgrounds.
Right. Parkour. I got parkour everything. Oh my gosh.
I always get, because a couple of my players are, 10 years younger than me, and the one military guy, he's a great guy. I love him. But he cracks me up because every time they want to do stuff that's like, I like to steep a little realism into it because I think that ups the danger. But he's like, well, we're heroes, and it doesn't help when you see those parkour videos and those guys scamper up a 30-foot wall in 6 seconds.
True.
Because I'm like, you can't do that, and they're like, they did it. And I'm like, I flip into my Unearthed Arcana to look at the Thief Acrobat.
Right.
I'm like, I can't do that.
Yeah, they can pull vault.
But you have armor and 80 pounds of gear too. So
here's one of the questions that I'm dealing with. So in Castles of Crusades, if you have like a 22 strength or something, you can use a 2-handed sword with one hand. Okay. So the player has a belt of whatever strength that gives him that. So now he wants to use a 4-handed sword with 2 hands. And I'm like, there is no 4-handed sword. He's like, well, can I use a giant sword? A giant wouldn't I need 4 hands to hold that giant sword? I'm like, yeah, logically, but no. They just push the boundaries.
Steven, that's why I have the no just no emote with my friend with his finger up his nose and no on his forehead. I'm going to put it in 10 times in the chat right here. Here it comes, a no just no. emote. There it is. There we go. There's 10 of them or 12 of them or whatever.
Yes.
So
yes.
you just know. No, just no. That's what it is. You just.
I need a little placard with that.
Yeah, you just end the discussion right there because the crazy stuff will come. Now I've gone a lot softer, as Cannibal and all the rest of the community says, in my recent years because of the live streams. I had Bones' character, her bandit, jump off a 40 to 50 foot high tower. That's a fall onto a bugbear to knock down without, and I said, if you make this roll, you can do it. And she rolled a 20. What am I going to do? I said she could do it.
Well, you take the damage and then the half the damage damage get applied to whatever you hit.
I don't care.
Usually my roll.
If a military guy did it, he's going to get hurt without a rope jumping 40 feet. Right?
Yeah, I've had people who jump out from like 100 feet to kill something, and I simply say, whatever damage you take, the thing that you fall on take the same amount of damage. That's usually my general rule, so kind of even it out. So I had one character died, but the thing he jumped on died even more, so to speak. So,
it happens. It's part of the game. It's part of the fun.
Roger, did you were running you were running Pathfinder? So, I mean, and I love the customization you could have with two different rogues, and they were totally different, but didn't like, as it got higher levels, like I don't know how you, like, I ran a Pathfinder campaign, how did you keep your head straight with like so many, like you had to keep track of feats and all the monsters?
When I was a player in a Pathfinder game, it was first edition, my main solution is I play the simplest character I can, fighter. And that's my default character through any role-playing game. I'll play a fighter or something that, walks around with a shotgun or a longsword, and that's it. It's not complicated. I don't have to remember spells. I don't have to remember how many thief skills I forgot to use in the last round. But when I'm a game master, I really just have to trust the player's judgment on things. I've tended to play with people who are pretty well versed in what the game was, and really wanted to play it as it was. I totally agree with you. I mean, it can, that thing can really balloon out. Second edition AD&D was starting to do something like that when they were adding, the complete player's hand. I mean, the complete fighter's handbook, the complete rogue's handbook.
Yeah, you had to
and grip on I know as the editions advanced, they became, quite a bit more complicated and everything. I have to admit, Pathfinder had a really interesting way of running it up there so that you could get some very, very bizarre characters. I think I had one guy who was a cavalier, and he had a lot of very interesting twists in that character that were perfectly legal, within the game and everything like that. But I was like, oh, I've never seen that before. That's very interesting.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I was going to say, when we played Pathfinder 1, we always, everyone around the table had a computer with the program that handled the character management. That was the only way, and that sped up the game. It would have been unplayable without it, more than maybe after level 5 to 10. After that, it would have been terrible. But we played a lot of it, and as a DM, when I used Pathfinder 1 first edition for like 10 years, and it worked really well because everything, I had it in the tools, so I could add feats, so I saw all the spells and all that, and had the encounters. So if they met whatever, I just had the stat block ready, and I could just click if something raged or get a condition on, and so on. That made it so it was in my opinion, it was a system that required computational aid for both a DM and player in order to play. And I missed that in third edition 3.5, which Pathfinder was just an extension as well as I saw it. Was kind of a refinement of it. And 3.5 we suffered greatly because we didn't have those tools. And then when Pathfinder came around, those tools were around. That's why I played it as long as I did, because it actually worked well with computer.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. That's actually a very interesting point, because you brought back a memory about something when we were playing the Pathfinder. Everybody had, everybody had a cell phone that they were using as a computer type device. They would, particularly when Pathfinder was starting to accumulate massive numbers of spells and other things that were from other different books, like when they added Goliaths, and that's all found in who knows what book now and everything. I can't remember, but you really needed something in hand to like look up all your spells. My wife has been playing bards and other characters in Pathfinder with lots of spells, and she's divided her own shorthand way of going through notebooks, and flipping very fast through index card notebooks and stuff like that, so she can find the spell she wants and everything. But you really got to work at coming up with shorthand. Computational things, exactly what you said, and I think that's becoming universal now for a lot of games. I mean,
D&D Beyond for 5e players and various other tools.
And D&D 5e is kind of feels like, actually, Castle and Crusades kind of feels like what 3rd edition should have been. 5e is like kind of around there, like it's, I think, to bring back the old school gamers. With Pathfinder, I said you could only play core rules because there were so many books. It was just too boggling to like wrap your head around. And I also purchased for $5. There was a PDF called Sword, SORD, and it basically had all like the rules. And again, while I like the customization, the thing where the rules get intensive in some of the systems, right? It covers every eventuality. So like it made it harder as a DM to like kind of story wave events that happen because like somebody's getting away or something's happening. Well, no, I've got this feat and this ability that allows me to, and it's just like, oh, okay,
Yes.
Well,
yes,
you need to do what I do, and that's be a complete control freak in your game. Every new rule we bring out, we play test, and develop it, but that's a little on the brain's about to explode, from 43 years of keeping on adding and adding and adding and adding. I just added a new ability feat to my 1e2e game on Wednesday. We're always adding. We're always making changes. But I can see where if I took all those splat books from 2e and just said, have at it, guys, oh my gosh, right? That would be crazy. We'd be getting stuff that I couldn't control at that point. Yeah, definitely.
For me, it's something I try to deal with a lot of, because I don't go through and figure out all the stuff that the characters can do all the time. So and I don't keep track of it. So what I do is I send in, if someone important is like a villain comes to the battlefield, so to speak, anyway. So you send in some test troops to see what the players can do, what the characters can do, and then when they die, that didn't work. So send in some others, do some other tactics or whatever. So meaning as a DM, you have unlimited amount of monsters. Don't worry about it. Send in a few, get them slaughtered. It was that's how you now they did this trick. Then have them, especially like they assault the goblin cave. Let's say it's 120 goblins in this. First, you send in the first 40 and to see what they're made of, so to speak, the characters, and try to overwhelm them and do it. If they cut through all that, then maybe there's a 50-50 chance the goblins will run and run for the hills, or they will be smart and get at it smart, so to speak. And so don't hesitate, meaning you have a lot of monsters, send them in, especially dumb ones, undeads, whatever, send in lots of them, get killed, just to wear them down and then so on. So don't let your monsters don't have to count to the last hit point, so to speak. They can just go in and it's reconnaissance for you, so to speak. And master evil villain, they just send them in just to figure out if there is an enemy. The first 10 monsters that get killed by the characters are simply there so the villain knows you're there, so to speak. And then you can ramp it up.
Yeah, traps. Steve, I know, Steve, you said you don't go for traps, but I've been increasingly working in traps for my 5e game. Because in 5e there's the mechanic where you have levels of exhaustion, and each level of exhaustion you have, right, it affects your ability to perform. So I'll have some that affects them. Oh, they triggered a trap. So make a saving throw. Oh, you made your save. Oh, you only suffer one level of exhaustion. And I'll do stuff like that, so it kind of whittles them down and makes them go in a little more cautious. There's you know what it was like back in the day. I mean, there was no shame in running. That's what if that's what you had to do. But my group, they don't want to run ever.
No.
And look, like the trap, instead, the trap is not there to cause harm or damage or anything like that. It's just there to make a hell of a lot of noise to alert everybody who lives in the building that someone comes there, so to speak. So so even when you disarm the damn thing, it makes a noise if you don't run really high DC or something like that. And so
that's a great idea. So like if they disable the trap, and if they get within a certain range, they're able to disable it. Yeah. But they need to be in a higher range to disable it without.
Well, you tell the rogue or the thief that the character that disables it, like, this thing is going to make a hell of a lot of noise when you tamper with it. So
I think my biggest issue with traps, I have two issues with traps. I actually never thought, Dan, and that's brilliant. I never really thought of making it just do exhaustion as opposed to damage and whatnot. Just because I absolutely love to wear characters out. I follow, if they're doing strenuous stuff for a long time, I start giving them penalties and stuff like that, because I think that should be part of the game. But I think the two things that my problems with traps is, one, if they're deadly, especially at low level, it's not a very heroic way to go, and I kind of like everyone to have a good story about their death, so that's one thing. But I can never quite figure out why my monsters would be setting these traps unless it's specifically to guard, the Indiana Jones thing, protect the idol.
Yeah.
But if it's like a wizard's dungeon where he's just studying, I mean, if that was me, I would fall in my own trap, 3 times a week. I set traps around my house. So I've always got that kind of mental block, I think. So I think it's really a me issue as opposed to.
But
well, I feel inclined to put traps in when I have a player playing a thief, because that's part of their skill set, and I want each person to shine, including the thief. So, but again,
I don't rarely run dungeons. I run overland almost, I would say 95%.
Deadfall traps are the best. Dropping the logs on people. Come on, Steven. They're the best, man. Tripwire, boom. You saw Predator. Come on. Now, real quick, my favorite traps are, there's the falling grate, and they're like, oh my god, something important, and then they open it, and it's a 5 by 10 room. There's nothing there. It's just a wall. It's a trap to nothing, and that gets them mad. I like. What
about the pitfall trap, landing them into a gelatinous cube? Simultaneously, the ceiling opens up and drops another one.
Those are good. Those are good ones. I like the one with the spikes with all the crap on them. Because you get diseased. But that's too realistic. Yeah, that's too real. That's like on the Vietnam era. So
6 months later, you have a disease.
Yeah. Diseases.
I like complicated traps too, like where maybe battle breaks out, so they it's not just like a 1 round thing. Like it's like a complicated thing that they've got to like invest in and like maybe work together to accomplish. So I siphon the resources off that way while other creatures are attacking. And then they start using their power, and I go, yes, use your power, strike me down, because I because they're such superheroes, and I don't want to just come out and like slap them down, because I want them to win. I mean, there's a dirty secret. I want my players to win.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. But I want to challenge them. So
it's exactly it. Exactly.
But Steve, I love your approach that traps should make sense from an in-game perspective, so to speak, from the critters that live there. So one of the tricks I'd add for like a humanoid camp, bunch of orcs, they put like they painted like signs like magic auras and put a Nistel magic aura on it, so just to get the characters to stay there and try to disable it, figure it out, then they can shoot like crazy at them. So
that's very cool.
So you can
honeypot trap. That's good.
Fake traps are great, so to speak.
My brother's famous for the kobold a bladder of urine trap. And you just open the door and whatever, and it comes down and smashes you. I mean, it just humiliates you.
That's it. That's it.
Or they can have traps in an entry that is false that they don't use, so to speak, but not the one they use. So the dungeon design, in my opinion, should make sense from the creators that live there. So
gotta make some kind of sense.
Yeah.
I got a weird 2-part question. Trying to get some audience questions in here because they've been dying. One of them is part me. Steven, I know this from Gary Con. I just want to hear how many. What's the largest amount of people you've ever DM'd for, and what kind of terrain? And I'm not talking about the terrain that Dan and I do, but like I know you're a river guy, Steven. Like, so, like, do you guys like snow? Do you like, just dungeon? Like, what's your favorite? Most you've ever DM for, and like, what kind of terrain do you like to throw against your players?
I think the largest group I ever ran at GaryCon was 26. It might have been 24. I'm not,
look at that! Look at that! Yeah, he doesn't. Yeah,
huge. You can see it somewhere on our YouTube channel. It's a huge crowd of people. And that one I did a river. They literally were just on a barge heading down the river, trying to get down the river, and they didn't make it. I don't know, 5 miles before someone started doing something. The nice thing about a group that big, there's going to be about 2 or 3 people that just start doing stuff. So no matter what you've planned, like Dan was saying earlier, characters are going to go, they're going to go off wherever, and they start, and the whole thing starts. But my favorite terrain's forest, without a doubt. Kind of hilly forest, without a doubt.
Roger, how about that one? Most you've ever DM for, and a terrain that you like to put them up against.
What was the question?
Most you've ever DM for players, and a terrain you like to put up your players against. Do you like city? I mean, it sounds like you're a city adventurer.
I like cities a lot. I would say that of natural terrain, I don't have too many particular favorites.
Okay.
I mean, I like woods because your maximum seeing distance is pretty limited, if it's a very dense one. But actually, I do prefer city terrains because you can box them in pretty effectively, once they start going inside places like that. So that works out very well. Like when there was an episode where the group attacked a group of alchemists that were evil. And once they got inside the place, there were some traps, but they were set up in such a way that the alchemists were not likely to wander through them. Other people might, so that was set up. And that turned out to be a very effective adventure, just getting them indoors, where it made it very difficult. I didn't have too many dungeons that I've DM'd recently and everything. I'd still have to go with, urban and building kind of things. Actually, I have a great fondness.
Yeah, like in Return of the Eight. You're in Jalarzi's tower. You're in Tenser's tower, right? I mean, yeah, we get a lot of those, which is what. Yeah. But you're on another moon. You're on a moon in that too. You're on one of the moons you're on Luna.
That one I liked because I was really striving to try and create an alien environment. They weren't going to be there very long, but they would be there long enough to start picking up that this place was really, really weird. And that was what I really wanted to get across, that there was a lot of lightning elementals, flying through the clouds. It was very misty. You had no long range vision whatsoever. Things were going to become very difficult, and run down to a very short range of short range encounters. Yeah, so I like that a lot too.
Audience, don't answer this question. Steven, Dan, who is this blue little character here? Who is that?
I do not know who that is.
Is that? It's so small. I can't see if it's like an Ettercap or a.
It's a Dretch, but it's someone. It's someone. It's Tenser.
Is that
That's Tenser when yes, right. So yes, that's the wonders of Roger Moore. This is after he's been destroyed. He has one clone on the moon that you got to go, and that's how you get him back after he's destroyed by Rary. So yeah, awesome. Absolutely, and that's a symbol on him. You see a little foreshadowing there. Yeah.
Oh, nice, very cool.
Yeah, really cool stuff.
The whole idea for bringing Tenser back with that reason was the idea that redundancy was the key to success or to survival more accurately. And I'd picked that out quite a long time ago that, the more redundant your backups were, the more likely you were to survive or, have something come out of it and everything. So that was, it's not something just pulled out of a hat. It's actually I looked at it as a real technique that a wizard would probably use.
Yeah, that's genius. And it was wonderful to have Tenser back.
Oh my God, yeah, I missed it for that time. We got things slaughtered, everything died. So, Dan, how about you? I mean, I've only done 16, and that I cheat. That's during a joust, so that's pretty easy. They're not all going at the same time like Steven. So yeah,
that's a lot. So I have, this is funny. I've only DM'd at a local convention. It's used to be Council of Five Nations. Now it's called Council Gaming Con. It's the second longest running gaming convention in the United States.
Cool.
I think they got interrupted with COVID for a few years. They're back again this year. So I think it's like their 44th year or 45th year. But I put a limit on my tables, like, 6 players. And then I'm gonna have a couple friends sneak in for 8. And, and I've had home games where I've had 8 players. And that was like hard enough. But then like, I think 4 of them had animal companions. And then, I'm out of my mind. It slows things down so much. So I prefer a sweet spot of, 5 to 5, like between 4 to 6 and 5 is kind of the perfect. I don't have a particular terrain that I favor using because I like to keep variety going, but I had a really memorable one that stands out during a 4th edition game where the players had to ascend this mountain, and along the mountain were like ruins that had slid down, and they had become occupied by these intelligent apes. So it's this vertical battle up, and like the apes could like move around on the vines, because it was their terrain, so they could move in ways that the players couldn't, and they would come and attack the players by grabbing them and throwing them, and so the players would have to like try and grab onto vines to survive. So having that fish out of water experience, that's a big standout for me. The battling the apes up the cliff.
Here's the cliff face you have a water base too. I just wanted to show that, so you got some really neat stuff.
That's great.
Yeah. Definitely some awesome things.
Yeah, I've game DM for we were at 12 players at the table. We were actually 10 players plus me and another assistant. We were 2 DMs, so we had an assisting DM that could handle some of the NPCs and stuff like that. So and I kind of just did the overview stuff, so to speak. And we played out in a small cabin on the Swedish-Norwegian border, way up in the forest, and it was kind of awesome overnight. So we had like a live on the way there. We had placed like traces of blood and old bits of dead animals, and we made tracks and stuff like that. I had colleagues who had fire out there, and they held things in front of the fire and stuff. So this is what they experienced walking there. So it was a great night, so to speak. That was really cool. When it comes to my favorite terrain, I like open terrain, and especially with a bit of hills. And when I have my big overland maps, I love them because then you can have a battle that stretches over miles or several hours. And one of the things that my group of Pathfinder players found out that they didn't like was that when they were out in the open, it was like, oh, nothing can surprise us here. They didn't realize how deadly dragons are out in the open when they come flying. and damn, that's when they were like, oh, we are like 8th, 10th level, 11th or something like that. And we are out in the open. We have all the magic in the world. We can see for 5 miles around. And here comes a dragon that can fly 120 and come in really low between the hills, and then come just over it and was over them in a heartbeat and just killed one character outright the first, and then was just gone again, and before they could do anything, and it was like, oh, it's coming again, and whatever. And they had to so basically what they did, they took the dead horses and took cover behind them and readied attacks and spells and stuff to come after it, and when half the party was dead. But that was a learning experience, because they always encountered dragons down at the basement of a dungeon, so to speak, where he couldn't do anything. I say, these are flying creatures. They will come in fast and low, and you will not see it until it's too late, so to speak. So you saw it the same round. The dragon got surprised. He got one round and he waited, came back 10, 15, 20 minutes later, and another one, and one of the 2 of the characters were ready, and so on. So you can do the same thing with hills. You can do height difference. You can have, like, if they walk through a gorge or something. Remember all the Western movies where the Indians they stood it on the mast on top? That works really well with giants and Yeah, and you can throw arrows and stuff like that. 500 orcs with arrows or giant with boulders and stuff, that can be nasty, and the characters run. so you can do a lot of cool stuff with outdoor adventures if you have the scale to spread out and a lot of maneuvering even before you get into initiative and combat. It can be half an hour of maneuvering. You can squeeze them towards the main force, and you can do all sorts of fun stuff with it.
So on that Anna just brought up, do you guys have an unusual or memorable game session? It could be recent, or it could be back in the day when you were a kid that may have something crazy like that happen.
Well, going back, so my brother was running a high-level game, and everybody was bringing 2 high-level characters. I mean, some of them were like as high as like 20th level, and I only brought 1 character, my 9th level cleric of Ariok from the Melnibonean. And I had, because I had acquired at some point Mournblade, so I was like, so I didn't feel too bad being 9th level in the company of these higher level characters, and we were on a quest to kill Bahamut, and I forget where we were, but I just remember like the goddess Freya showing up, and I killed her. She failed her saving her. It was something crazy.
Damn, you are ambitious. What an adventure. That's awesome.
The character drank her soul, but like almost immediately the next round, Thor showed up and threw his hammer at me with a natural 20 and killed me outright. It was that was memorable.
It was. I mean, those are the days where you just we didn't know what we were doing back then. I can't tell you how many times I took that D&D's Demigods board and we fought King Arthur in his court. I mean, who hasn't done that out of the D&D's Demigods book? Yeah. So, absolutely.
So in that spirit, way back when we were playing, I guess the merger of the OD&D is, I guess, is what it's called, in AD&D, whatever. My character Kane, who got that Vorpal blade, who cut the T-Rex's head off. I have all these things in my desk. I played. Davis ran me through the Dwarven Glory by We Warriors. And in this, in one of the rooms, you get a Thompson machine gun. Now, my character didn't know what it was, and I didn't know. It had a drum. It has a drum magazine, if I recall, on it. I didn't know what ammo was, and Davis didn't tell me how much. I mean, I did, but my character didn't. And Davis didn't tell me how much ammo I had. So I kind of knew how to operate it. It's this magic wand, whatever. Well, Davis was deep into Michael Moorcock in those days, and he was reading the Eldritch books and the Corum books. I think it's actually the Corum books. It has Ariok. It's shown as this gigantic, huge god, and the people are crawling up his side, like on ropes and stuff like this. So I was in a fight with Ariok, and I remember I thought I'm going to open up with this Thompson. So when I go up against Ariok, I open up with it. Well, I don't know if Davis did this or if it's in Dwarven Glory, but there's only 3 rounds in the drum. So I shot him off and promptly got obliterated. It's absolutely ridiculous. But that's what it was like in those days. You just
lots of death. Lots of death. Oh, that's awesome. Those stories, though, you keep with them you keep them all with you forever.
Well, then there's also, you guys probably have to have had this too, where like you're young, and then like one of your friends is DMing, and like you've done something to piss him off, so like you end up getting like waking up and find out you were raped by an ogre or something. The stupidest things that happened. Yeah. He's like, and then like you just doled out payback when it was your turn.
Absolutely. The abuse, the back and forth. Who could abuse each other the worst? How about Roger? You got a memorable moment?
It was back in Mannheim when I was playing with the Army Group over in West Germany again, when there was one, and we were looking at the Gamma World rules, and I was pretty impressed with the Death Machine that Jim Ward had come up with. Come over here.
Of course, Jim Ward. Of course.
Jim Ward, the Death Machine robot, which would put out millions of hit dice of damage within 6 seconds, 3 seconds, something like that. And we tried an experimental game. I said, okay, this is just this doesn't count for anything, but I got to find out something. And we passed around the old Deities and Demigods book. And I said, each one of you pick a god. Okay. Because you're going to play a god. You're going to fight an enemy. And everybody was just so excited. So they made up all their spell lists and everything. And they wound up fighting 3 death machines. And to make it fair, I had the death machines on random programming. So I would roll a die, and then they would, fire randomly at a random weapon or a random battery of guns at a particular character. In the first melee round, the goddess Nike died, and everybody in the group threw up their hands and said, "Holy crap!" I said, "Is this for real?" And I said, "Oh yeah, I'm rolling the dice that the thing says to do." And the game changed dramatically after that. People dumped all the gods that they had picked and began going through the book again, looking for other gods that had like super fast attacks. I think the god Agni from India could grab hold of something and in 1 second break it. And, so he used that with teleport, and he was quite successful, in moving around and breaking death machines. But the initial idea that this is going to be some prolonged fight against about 1 million kobolds or something like that was done away with very fast. The game moved very quickly, and everybody came away with it with a brand new respect for Gamma World, as using the crossover rules that were in the old Dungeon Master's Guide. So that was really, I remember, Nike, it was Goddess of Victory, and so of course she couldn't lose. Wrong, and awesome. that was just a very, very bizarre game, and everybody enjoyed it, especially knowing that it was just a hypothetical thing, and we didn't need to apply this to the actual game, but it gave us a really hard appreciation for what was going on there.
So. And that's Jim Ward for you, the original Monty Hall DM.
Yes.
So we know he killed Morning Cannon 6 times on the Starship Warden original, right? Right, Stephen? That's a story that was told.
He will tell you that he's never killed a character. They've always gotten themselves killed.
Right.
Yep.
Oh my God. That's a great story, Roger. I never heard that ever. Those death machines. That's a new one. I've never heard that.
I'd forgotten about it, but it was just, I was thinking about it as we were talking about these bizarre games. I've done a lot of weirdo games, but that one kind of stuck in everybody's memory.
Oh, that is awesome. I'm going to ask a serious question next. Dead or alive, someone you wish you could or have or DM for or play with. I mean, it could be Abraham Lincoln or it could be someone who's existing, now and is part of WotC or,
Listen, I'm a Christian, so like, who would be better DM than the creator of the universe and sitting down with Jesus?
Okay.
But I think out of like total respect for what he accomplished, I mean, like Gary, I mean, like being able to like, I didn't get to meet him. So like even being able to meet him, but like to play with a guy who like, he's the legend.
True. And by the way, Dan, next time we have Ed on, if Dan can make it, he's going to be invited to the game. We couldn't make it to the last one.
Yeah. Very psyched.
Yeah, definitely. And so good one. Roger or Steve?
I don't really have anybody in particular. I mean, I've enjoyed gaming with a lot of people who worked at TSR and with other game companies and everything. I mean, I've had a lot of fun, and I'm pretty happy. I can't think of anyone off the top of my head I'd like to game for and everything.
But wouldn't you like to get together with Eric Mona and that crew? I mean, because you guys really helped each other out during that era, right?
Yeah. Well, I did.
Yeah.
I did. Yeah. I mean, I was back at. I would go periodically back to TSR, and I was playtesting 3rd edition, not 3.5, but the actual 3rd edition while I was up there. So I know I've gamed with quite a few people up from Wizards of the Coast and everything. So I mean, I'm still pretty happy. And everything. I'll game with anybody. That's fine.
Awesome. Really cool. Steven.
Well, I'll have to say, I worked with Gary for 8 years. We were his publisher from 01 to 08 when he passed away. And we did a lot of conventions together, but we ran 6 up there. But I wouldn't let anyone, the rule was no one can play with Gary Gygax until everyone who has bought a ticket to go to one of the conventions had a chance to play. And of course, the slots were always full. But I played one board game with Gary. In all those years, I never actually played a role-playing game with him. I sat in the tables next to him while he played, while he was playing. But it would have to be, I'd have to go with Dan. I wish that I had played with Gary when I had the opportunity. And if I could now, I would go sit at his table and play again, or play for the first time. I watched him. He was really cool to watch because it was both. He had that nice touch of realism and fun. I'll never forget, and I think I've told this to this channel before, Jay, but I was sitting in the booth and he was running a table with like 6 people. And there's this big, I wasn't really paying attention, but there's this huge battle going on. And I remember when he cast his spell, he looked at Peter Bradley, who's our art director, and he goes in, he casts magic missile, and then boogity, 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 boo. And I just completely lost it laughing, because it was like completely, all the tension and all of that stuff. It was so funny. So I think there was this element to the way he played that I would have really enjoyed, I think.
Yeah. Gary Gygax was my boss, so I had a little different view. It's your boss. It's okay. You don't want to do that.
Yeah.
Wow.
So. For me, I think it game with so many awesome people now, both virtually and in person, like Ed Greenwood and Eric Mona and a whole bunch of others now. And so, but one person I think from the gaming scene that I would love to game with that I haven't had a chance. I've seen run games for a little bit that I think is just awesome is Stefan Pokorny of Dwarven Forge, and I would love to be in one of his games. That's one of my and in his game room and stuff. That is something I would like to have on my, because I think he's an excellent DM. He's one of a kind, so to speak. So
very fun. He's very fun.
Yep. Yeah, I know he's awesome at running games and so on. So yeah, so I would most definitely want to be in one of his player in his games, as that's on my bucket list of things to do. That might happen. We'll see. I would also love to be in one of Wolfgang Bauer's games. He promised it, but COVID came and it didn't happen, so to speak. So those two are things that people that I would love to game with that I haven't got a chance with yet. So.
Excellent.
Yep.
And you have one final question for everyone, and then we'll do some wrap-ups and shout outs.
Okay, yeah, I was thinking now when you guys have been DMing way too long, so to speak, or long, meaning what part of the game session or the game prep or the rules bit, whatever, have you skipped doing that you used to do, so to speak, that you realize this is useless, we don't need to do this anymore, you can just rationalize it away, skip doing it, so to speak. Any parts of the game, any aspects, rules or procedures that you realize this is crap, we don't need to do it, we don't need to spend a lot of energy doing this, so to speak,
that we've just tossed out, huh?
Yeah, or something. It might be a procedure, something you don't do in prep anymore that you used to spend a heck of a lot of time doing, or some procedure at the table that you realized, oh, we don't need to do this, we can just move on and do, or something like that.
Well, I can tell you a change I've made that's sort of in that vein, if that'll work. I used to do, I think everyone here on the panel is a big world builder, and I'm big into world building and all that, and I love that stuff. And I used to give, when we would sit down to game, I'd give a good, solid background for all of this stuff. I've dropped that. Nobody's paying attention at first level. So what I'll do is I'll take that background and I restrict it to 3 minutes. I don't want to talk more than 3 minutes before we start the game. And then I weed the background into the game as we play, over time. That's kind of changed, because I've noticed that a lot of players they don't care. They want to kill something.
Steve, you stole my first one that I was going to say. So perfect. That's a great answer. Dan, what have you tweaked or
out the
skipped?
window?
Yeah.
But I guess encumbrance, things like that.
Yeah,
mired down with maintaining your rations or your ammunition. I mean, I remember meticulously keeping track of my rations and my ammunition in first and second edition, and it was important. And while I would still probably feel good about doing that, my players don't care. I mean, in fifth edition, you can mend a broken arrow. It's so I get by that minutia, and sometimes instead of belaboring something, I'll say, hey, do you want to continue down this route and discuss this further, or should we move forward at the speed of plot? And and sometimes they want to say, no, we want to talk to that person or whatever. Or a lot of times it's like, okay, it's okay to move forward at the speed of plot and kind of hand wave those events, and look at it like a film, kind of a hard cut to the next scene.
Yeah,
that's good.
Yeah. That's also good. Yeah, I usually I do stuff like that when I think it's important for the plot. If they're out there starving or dying of thirst in the desert, then it becomes important to track water. Otherwise, I skip it. And the same thing, if they're going through the biggest forest, whatever, then they need to forage and stuff. Otherwise, I skip it. So I try to when it makes sense from a story perspective, then I try to do it. Otherwise, I skip it. So yeah, but it's a great point. Yeah.
Gotcha. One other thing, I will I'll actually, man, I will I've lost it and I'm trying to delay so I can catch it again. If it comes to me, I'll think of it. Sorry.
Please.
It's all right, man.
No problem.
Roger.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. Early in the history of gaming, I mean, it was pretty common for DMs to check up on players to kind of make sure they're doing things right and all that. And when everything was starting out, I really, at this stage of life, I'd rather play with people who already know what they're doing. I don't want to go have to check up on them. I trust them to the point where that's fine. Okay, if you say that you rolled that die, that's what you get. That's okay, because I can work with it. I mean. I've been there's always something I can come up with that will keep the game running and all that kind of thing. So I don't worry about the players. I don't roll saving throws for them or anything like that. If they roll it, then that's what they get. And so I think just being able to trust the players, or at least not let it worry me, has really been a key thing, because I can then move on with the story, with the plot, with the DMing, and I don't get bogged down in trying to meta process what's really going on in the game. Are these two people passing notes or whatever? I don't care. I mean, that's not going to affect with certain games it becomes very unimportant. I would say with Call of Cthulhu or games like this, where the chance of party death is fairly significant, then I really don't worry and everything. Players, there was a Call of Cthulhu game I refereed in which they were going to go investigate a haunted house, and they started going through the book and say, "Can I take a Browning automatic rifle with me?" I said, "Sure." "Can I take dynamite with me?" I said, "Sure." Yeah, I didn't care, because I knew they were going to die. And it wasn't.
That's very convenient.
They were fighting monsters that were not that affected by physical world damage. Okay, and that was not a problem for me. Plus, some of the characters could get their minds taken over and could turn around and start shooting their own party members, and it was a lot more effective if somebody lit the box of dynamite, and everything like that. I didn't really care, so they could do pretty much, and it should have been a warning to them, me, who used to be kind of picky about that kind of thing, suddenly just didn't give a darn, and it worked out quite well. So
that's great.
Not worrying about that kind of thing. It's like,
So I'm going to share something that I've recently, to keep the game moving. Mike Shea told this idea. I was watching him one Sunday morning. I said I got 12 die 6 on a fireball. I've been averaging the damage from the bad guys a lot, because I just don't feel like rolling 12 die 6, right? And sitting there and doing it. And I want to keep the game moving. So 12 die 6, that's 42, right? Boom. So, yeah, and move on. That's it. So I've been, in a lot of cases, I've been doing that little nuance that I would have never considered doing 5 years ago. Wouldn't have done it. Yeah,
I've been rationalized initiative. I don't roll initiative formally, so to speak, very rarely. Only if it's really, really important. I just let the story continue. If the characters are the one that have initiative, they go first. If they are the ones finding something and say, "Oh, I'm shooting," then I just let him shoot. I don't want to interrupt the flow of the story to say initiative, and then a lot of games I played in, first you have story, you talk and you role play, roll initiative, all the story goes out the door and becomes crunchy rolling numbers. I don't want that. I want to keep the story. So I I skip initiative, and then I secretly in my Obsidian, the tool I'm using to manage with character sheets with all the stat blocks and stuff, I just roll and they randomly happen to be all the encounter in the encounter, and I just do it. Or I usually group them and say, okay, those orcs that are over there, they go, so to speak. And I just try to make it natural that it flows with the story, and not to try to make mechanics into it, because I want the story. I want to ease into combat, or just bang, go into it with a bang in if an ambush comes. But I want the story to tell the tempo, and I want to keep the story flowing through combat. That has been something I try to do.
I got to try that. That sounds.
Yeah.
I see exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah.
And how it can interrupt things. So you know what? I'm gonna try that. I'm gonna see where it goes.
Good, thank you.
Exactly what this discussion's all about, man.
Yeah.
Just bringing together ideas, and that's why we love them so much. So, does any three of you want to ask anyone else any questions?
By the way, listen, I remember that one thing.
Okay, please.
And that was, if I have information that I definitely want the players to find out, I don't make them roll knowledge checks or anything, because if they miss, if I'm assuming they're going to make it and they miss, then I'm out of giving them information. That's their next nugget. So I will just say, oh, this reminds you of a time when you were here and you read this book and this, and then I'll work the information in.
I
do it to temper.
There's a whole section in Castles and Crusades where we talk about that. If they don't need to if you don't want them to make a check, or they need to pass that check, don't ask them to make a check, because they're gonna fail if you do. They're gonna roll that one or whatever.
I do it to keep strain on myself as a DM to not go into these kind of talk about all the stuff. So it's a check on me as a DM to not blurt out in 20 minutes of lore discussion just because they. So in that sense, they should fail some knowledge rolls because they keep the DM quiet, keeps me quiet, and we have to move on. Yeah. So it's a check on me rather than the characters. Yeah.
That's funny, Anna.
Yep.
So let's do a summation. What would you like to say? And thank you all for being here. This is great discussion. A summation and then some shout outs. Something you got going on. Roger, why don't you start off? We'll go with the elder statesman here. What do you got going on, and anything you'd like to shout out?
I'm still working on some articles for Earth Journal. I've got a whole bunch of stuff that's in right now, and still in press, but it's been a lot of fun. I'm trying to come up with some articles about time travel, particularly in the world of Greyhawk or anything like that. One thing I've been working on too is got most of that done, was creating the world of Yarth, which was the intermediary planet between Earth and Orth that Gary had been talking about. So that's come along pretty well. So we'll see what happens.
We will see, and we will see Roger returning at the very last event during Virtual GreyhawkCon 4 during the Ask the Expert session with Eric Mona and Malden and Alan Grohe and Greyhawk Ronyard and maybe one or two others. So, and that'll be what's that, October 9th? Sunday, October 9th, 7 p.m. Our last, always the coup de grace for that con weekend. So, hey Roger, I appreciate you coming on, man. Thank you.
Oh, you're very welcome. I'm going to have to sign off right now.
Problem.
I have to get some things taken care of.
No problem, Roger.
Thank you so much.
All right.
Yep. Take care.
Oh, you're very welcome. Thank you all very much.
Yeah,
you
Roger,
all have an excellent.
Good seeing
have
you
a
again.
good night.
Yep.
Good seeing you
Good
too.
night. Very nice meeting you.
Good night.
I can't believe it. I can't believe you rejected your submission. That's a great story.
That's awesome.
I didn't put two and two together when I saw the guest list, and I thought Roger, and then later I was like, holy crap, that's the gentleman who rejected Mortality of Green, which ironically was one of the 4 of our first publications. Because when we put the company together, Max said, hey, didn't you write those modules that got rejected by TSR back in the day? So we pulled those out, and Mortality of the Green was the one that we.
Yeah. So now you can say that it sold really well for CNCs. It would have been a great success for D&D back in the day. Yeah.
Because you put that one out. You put that one out in 3rd edition and 5th.
3rd edition, 3.5, Castles and Crusades, and technically for Swords and Wizardry, because our first games were done before we did Dungeons and Dragons. So it's been out for 4 different years.
Oh, wow. Yep.
But I got to tell you, and I'm not joking, he was so nice in that rejection. I mean, the comments in the margins, and it was helpful comments. It was a great rejection. It was fantastic. I mean, it wasn't fantastic. It was a rejection, but
we all get rejected at least once or twice in our life, I think.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, definitely. Yep.
Yes.
So, Dan, what would you like to summarize the discussion and shout out?
Well, thank you for having me. It's really nice meeting all of the other speakers. I'm just, you know what, right now I'm still doing my weekly game. I just finished my first novel, and I'm editing it, and looking forward to starting to see where it can go with publication. And but beyond that, gaming, I'm real. So my brother, he made me promise that this game I would get his character to 20th level. You know, he has to live, but if he gets 20th level, he's a hard sell. But I'm on this, him and my one player who could swim with 90-pound ruck, are the ones I have to sell on this. And this is where I want to go next. And my 25, soon to be 26-year-old son, when I told him I purchased the 3 books, he was like, yes. So he's like, so I'm really looking forward to that.
Well, let him know that we give a 50% discount to all veterans. So maybe that'll help.
That'll help for him on. Yeah, my brother's a vet, so
there you go.
3 of my gamers are Marine Corps vets, so
that's awesome.
Plus, you got some good connections with CNC, and they're very accessible. Chuck is always on, hanging out and doing stuff. So if you ever have a question about something, we can get right to the horse's mouth on a CNC question for you too. So
let me ask you this though,
please,
is this because I wanted to use some of your resources, Jay, that you were going to provide, so that I could take my next campaign to Greyhawk, which I never run Greyhawk. So would Castle and Crusades be a good place to run Greyhawk?
Absolutely,
I think so. Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Absolutely, 100%. I mean, there's a lot. In fact, there's going to be a lot of CNC running of Greyhawk in Virtual GreyhawkCon. I know Phantom Rob, right? Lando, a couple. We'll be running Sparky too. Yes, we'll be running some events, and the answer to that is absolutely.
Awesome.
Yeah, definitely.
Awesome.
Very cool.
Yeah, everyone here is a huge Greyhawk hound from so yeah.
Yeah, and you can see, as Steven says, you can see the effect Greyhawk had on Aird.
Yes, you can. Yeah, it definitely had a huge impact on the development of the world.
Absolutely. So, Steven, I got. I'm going to bring some things up up here that I've been scrolling through for you here. Let me bring these up real quick, because I know you want to shout some of this stuff out. So we got. And we got some Kickstarters running, and I got that, and we'll update. So this is Monsters and Treasures Aird. This is the one with the Greenwood Dragon in it. We got a release date on this?
It has begun shipping to the Kickstarters as of last Thursday, and we'll pick up some steam this week, but the real rush will be next week as we kind of get all of the kinks worked out of packaging and all that mess. What packages get what? But that I'm hoping in the next 2 weeks that's the After Winter Dark Kickstarter that should be en route to all backers within the next 2 weeks. I'm super stoked on it too. We have some little bitty books coming out with this one too, so we're trying some new formatting and approaches. I'm just super stoked on it.
And does that?
Now this. Go ahead.
Go ahead. No, go ahead, please.
So this is a Kickstarter that we're doing a run up to the Kickstarter. It should launch, I believe, on September 4th. It might be the 2nd. I'm not sure.
Both of these.
This is the Codex Infernum and Codex Exaltum Kickstarter. You can go over to our sign up page now and sign up for it. The first book is going to be the Tomb of the Unclean revisited. We're going to clean it all up, make it, bring in some color art for everything. I'm going to rewrite a whole bunch of that sections to line it up with the Codex of the Plains, which will be coming out later. And then the Codex Exaltum is all new material, and it'll be good and lawfully good creatures, angelic creatures, stuff from myth and legend all over the place. And both of those books will come in tandem. Those will be in their own Kickstarter, like I said, starting in September. And please go sign up for the page. I think it's in the chat there. for the what is it? The notify me on launch page is what it's called, I suppose. So whatever the thing's called.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah.
No, Anna and I had a nice big meeting, and we are moving forward with our project. We got it going now. So I'm actually taking pictures, the pictures of my table, labeling them and converting them to Anna, who's going to put them on the map, and I'm going to be finishing up with all the write-ups on them for the Free City of Altamira box set. So yeah.
That's going to be fantastic.
To be released and aired, but it'll be able to be used in Greyhawk too, because that's
awesome.
Yep. So things are moving forward here. So Anna, what else would you like to say, and then we'll go to this and I got a couple quickies.
First again, I'm sorry that our game got canceled today, since it's basically our home game. So we had 2 players who couldn't make it today, so that's why we had to cancel, because we are in a story bit heavy, and I didn't want to run them without the players, so to speak. So we're skipping. We're going to try again in 2 weeks. But first, thank you to everyone who showed up Friday on the mapping live stream. They have turned out really good. We had some awesome chat going on and stuff. We will try and make them longer, so we can do 3 hours instead. And I will also try and do at least 2 a week. That will be the goal, trying to find a spot, an earlier spot during the day, so some people in Europe and stuff have a chance to come in, and it will not be so late on the East Coast, since I'm California based. So we'll have one day. So that way we'll also hopefully not compete. Because we don't want to compete. I don't want to compete with anybody else in the Greyhawk streaming community, so to speak. So that's why we have to find a spot where we don't intrude as little as possible to any of the other streamers. But it's really cool. We start to get some traction, 50 people that watch and interact and stuff, and it's kind of fun. And it keeps me sitting at the computer working and not doing anything else, which is the other huge benefit of it, so to speak, because it's basically me showing how boring the mapping can be. And I'm amazed that some people find it interesting to look at things that are looking at like paint dry, so to speak. But it's the GIS project is underway. There is a ton of stuff. I'm digitizing or making it into GIS, and I'm also now moving into city maps. Both Critwall and for my Shieldlands campaign is my test bed, because I don't want to do for commercial commissions and stuff. Then I don't want to invent things, because I have no idea how long it will take and how many pitfalls to fall in. That's why I always test things for my own games first, and the Greyhawk projects, where if it doesn't work out, then I can rethink and come back to it later. So Altamira is using the technology that I've figured out over the last 4 or 5 years for my Shieldlands. But the cool thing is the Shieldlands mapping is coming forward. I have about almost 4,000 square miles that I'm a fair bit done, so to speak, at porta potty scale. And the Critwall, the City of Critwall project is really cool. So it's starting to come. We named streets and places and stuff on Friday, and that was a lot of awesome input from the place. So I would definitely do way more of the world building and cartography rather than just doodle in Photoshop, because it's cool to get so much creative input and help when I'm doing it, and that's a lot of fun. So it's a lot of the insight into it, and it's also a lot of tricky. Once you start going into the minutia of terrain, so to speak, then you have to add things that weren't there originally and fill out the gaps, which is both interesting but also kind of responsible in that sense, that don't break it for others, so to speak. So it's interesting, but it's a new perspective of this on the setting, and once now I know how to do it, we're going to do Altamira, and then next year, yes, when Altamira is done, then it's time to start thinking about the really big projects and the really cool things,
big ones.
Yeah, like the city of Greyhawk, or a Temple of Elemental Evil, Null, Ferbobonk, Hamlet area and stuff like that. The really good
or
classic
the World of Aird.
Yeah, exactly. We can think about the World of Aird. Yes, definitely.
Steven,
because if we have one area, we can expand. So
it's a stepping stone, because I'm gonna after that Elven Kingdom. kingdoms below.
Yeah.
So, we're going to do because I already
so,
have all
so,
that.
And the prototype take the longest to do. Once I know how to do it, doing the next one takes half as long and so on. Once it becomes more of a standard routine, I know what to do, then I don't have to sit and figure it out, so to speak. And now I have powerful machine, I can render and work at the same time and stuff like that. So that it's fun. So it's a lot. But and it's also, I realize now we can start doing some incredible stuff that I wasn't able to do before. So it's really cool, and we can start putting it on servers so people can watch it, view the maps in the browser and stuff like that, and prints and various style mapping. So yeah, I have years of work, and thanks to all the support on Patreon and stuff, that is, Patreon had a hiccup last month, so I lost almost half my income, but I hope that is just a monthly. It was that they screwed up for a bit there, so but hopefully that will fix itself for next month, so I don't have to live on porridge for 2 months or something. So what we think about it. So but it's coming back, and I'm also going to do my very best to get a game in for virtual GreyHawkCon as well. So
and we'll show. I think Wednesday night we'll show the stream schedule. We'll
and it will be set in Shield lands. So it will be, you will be Knights of the Shield doing a mission or something that is fairly simple, tied into my campaign. So
Well, let me show one day. Let me just show Friday, because Steven's going to be DMing for it. So good GMing. And we have TBD there because so 2 to 6, Steven's in. We got Phoenixy, Wally Hobbit, Mike Disney, Troll Lord, Blue Box, Carlos, and Armin all the way through the night in New Zealand on the first day. And we do have a seminar kind of set up, Stephen, from 4:30 to 6. Those are Eastern times on. That's wrong. That's last year's. I'm a dumbass. Hold on. There we go.
It's all good. Chuck.
Yeah, Chuck will handle it. Yeah, there we go. What's happening in Aird? Yeah, so from 4:30 to 6. So we got that. So Wednesday night, languages, expressions, and glyphs on legends and lore. That was a good topic idea. And then I will have a game Thursday. I haven't even worked on that yet. But Saturday morning at 10, because he lives in frickin' Corsica, everyone. So I have to do it early. Rob Kuntz is back on. So I got Rob on at 10 o'clock. He's got a new publication out. It's like 100,000 words about Sir Robillard. So it'll be the third time we have him on. So that'll be at 10 a.m. Saturday morning. I babbled enough here. And let's do the giveaways, and then let's find someone to read into. Thank you both, and thank you, Roger. You guys have fun on this discussion?
Thank you for having me. Very, very much appreciated.
Yes. And now,
that's awesome.
And Dan, crossover, man. Like I said, Steven and the Troller crew are the most open. They're the easiest people to contact. If you ever want to collaborate, they guarantee they would love to.
Yeah, give us a shout, man. Absolutely.
You accept texts at all hours of the night?
I won't answer them, but I'll.
Yeah, but it's a great company to work for, work with, and just collaborate with. It's fantastic. So, Blue Box is in finally here. Good to see you guys, as I know they had a doubleheader today. So, we're going to do the giveaways. First winner's the coffee. I'll give you Blue Box people rated in 30 seconds, and that's it. If you want to do exclamation point drawing to get in on these. Once again, we'll do 2 $15 gift certificates, and we'll get out of here. And now that Darling's on, so we'll rate the Darling from here, who played last night. So, Steven, I'm trying, just for remember, down the road, this is well before Gary Con. I'm going to be there 10 days, man.
Yeah, I can't decide if I'm going to do that or not. I had other things I was going to do, but I got it. It's going to be it would be a lot of fun. The Legends and Legends there and Heroes.
Founders and Legends. I'm DMing Forgotten Temple of Tharizdun 3 straight days. 9 o'clock in the morning for Founders and Legends. Luke asked me to do it. Luke asked me to pick a legendary adventure and just run it run it all the way through. And so I said, Luke, no problem. And I was going to do Baldur's Beacon. What, excuse me?
Luke is good people, absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. So how can you say no if Luke's asking you to do it? So, but I'm going to be there, and then I'm DMing 3 times at GaryCon, and we got seminars. It's all good. But Ed Greenwood's going to be there all 9 days. Ed's going to be hanging out. A lot of people in the community are going to be hanging out. If you can, Steven, I suggest.
It's on the mental docket.
Yeah.
So.
Leave Chuck home. Let him come later.
There you go.
All right, here we go. Thank you for first winner tonight. If you don't want the coffee package, you will get a code for that. You got to order it, and then I'll give you a code. You can take the $15 gift certificate. You don't want it. So here we go. Let me open this up here and let's see who winner. First winner, Hager the Horrible. Grats, Hager. Let me know if you want the coffee package. Grats, a long-time viewer. Second winner is Moose2271. And the third winner is Patrick, Canadian Ancient Gamer. Nice. Grats, everyone. So one of you three will get that. It's up to Hager if he wants to pass on the coffee package. It'll go to Moose, and if not, then it'll go to Patrick, because I know Patrick drinks coffee. So just let me know, please. Once again, Dan, thank you so very much. Steven, thank you so very much for a great discussion. Our 14th DMs roundtable, huge success. Anna, thank you as always.
Oh, thank you.
See you in a couple days. I'm sorry. I have to do one more. I really apologize. Shit, I forgot. I am on another. I'm on another channel tomorrow night. I promised them I'd say something. I'm on Dice Legends. Look, I look like a freaking serial killer in this picture, don't I?
It's your mugshot. Yeah.
Yes. I'm on, and I said that this is on Dice Legends, Legenz, Dice Legends. They're in New Zealand. It starts at 6:00 tomorrow in the evening, it's the fighter group. And I'm playing 5e, and I played 5e twice in my life. I said, "You're gonna get what you deserve, guys, on this." I have no idea what the hell I'm doing.
It went so bad last time we did it. Yeah. We came last.
Yeah, so, we did that big test thing. So I'm on there, Dice Legends tomorrow with 3 other people. We're probably gonna hate my guts at the end of this because I'm shooting in freaking melee combat all day long, baby.
It's okay in 5e, so you know.
Nah, but he says if I miss, he re-rolls the damage. I was like, "You're the only 5e DM in existence who does that. Are you shitting me?" That's what I said to him. Yeah, I could not believe it. I'm like, well, I'm shooting anyway. I don't care. So, yeah, I'm just kidding. All right, we're going to raid the Darling. Everyone have a great night. Thank you. We'll see you Wednesday night. I'll see you tomorrow night if you want to watch Dice Legends. Everyone have a nice evening. Enjoy the rest of your weekend, what little is left of it. And I'll see you all soon. All right, bye. Awesome show, guys. That was awesome.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, it was great. Yeah.
Let me just go here, go here, go here, go here, go here, raid. Set the raid up.
Hey, I gotta hop off. It was nice meeting you, Dan.
See you, of course. Thank you so very much. We'll be talking soon, okay? We'll be talking real soon.
All right,
guys.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Take it easy, everybody.
81 raid going in. Cool. Awesome.
Yep.
Nice raid.
Yeah. That was good. It was good.